Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to the World Alliance of Qara'im weekly Torah study. This week we will be reading through Parashath WaYeshev. That will be in Genesis chapter 37, starting at the first verse, and we will hopefully read through to chapter 40 and ending at verse 23. Before I begin, I'm just going to give it a few minutes for the people to begin to trickle in. I usually start reading about 5 minutes into the program.
Shalom.
Shalom, Hakham.
Shalom. Hacham, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you doing today?
Okay.
So we are in chapter 37, and we'll be starting at the first verse. This is Parashath WaYeshev. And I'll wait for a few minutes before I start reading. So how was your week?
Can you hear me? Okay.
I hear you fine. Can you hear me? Does it sound okay?
Yeah, it was okay. A nice week with a great lockdown.
Ja, we have Ausgangsbeschränkung
Yes.
hier auch, und das ist nur Quatsch, muss ich sagen.
Absolutely Quatsch.
Yeah. I don't understand at all why we even have this. Look, we have the mask requirement. Have to wear this mask, and even though everyone here is wearing this mask,
Yes.
still the number of people getting corona is going up. It's not going down.
Yes.
Which clearly shows that the mask is doing nothing.
I think it is scientifically proven that it has a limited time of life, such a mask.
Yeah, it's everybody will probably end up getting corona. It's just like just like the flu. It's a virus, and there's nothing to really prevent it. The people that are affected most from the coronavirus are the same people that are affected most from the flu. It's the elderly, people who have other medical problems, and have immune deficiencies. And so, it's not like it's just killing everybody. It's targeting the same population groups that any other virus would target, really. And so, anyway, I think it's just a bunch of nonsense, really.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, now they're going to begin probably enforcing this Impfstoff.
The vaccine.
The vaccine.
The DNA vaccine.
I think I'm gonna wait. When they talk about changing your genetic code, I think I'm gonna wait a little bit. I'm gonna wait and try not to take it. I want to see what happens to all the other people if they start growing a third ear or something.
You will turn your entire body into a whole fabric, with that vaccine.
Yeah.
you can do big business then with virus.
Yeah, I think I would rather let my body build up its own immunity.
Yes,
which
it's
is
the natural way, but we have to.
That's right. Let my body change its own DNA on its own. All right, so we are now almost 6 minutes into the live stream, so I will begin to read through the parasha. I will read through it in Hebrew first, and then I'll give an English translation. And if my colleague here would like to give a German translation, he's more than welcome.
Oh, do you want me to translate it into German, or?
You can if you want to.
I
I'm
have
sure.
the Torah actually in German right now on my desk.
Okay, well that'll be fine if you want to read it. I'll do the English translation as I read, and if you want to give a German translation, then be my
Yes,
guest.
I can, of course. It's the Mendelssohn translation from Mendelssohn.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. But it's okay.
Moses Mendelssohn.
Yeah, I don't know who he is.
Okay.
Sorry. So, verse 1, chapter 37, verse 1. وَيَشِفْ يَعْقُوب بِأَرَتْ مِغُورِ أَبِيهِ بِأَرَتْ كِنَعَانٍ. And so Yaakov dwelt in the land of his father's uh, residence in the land of Canaan.
Okay. Shall I read the German? Okay.
Yeah.
Jakob aber ließ sich nieder in dem Land, wo sein Vater sich aufgehalten hatte,
Wow,
nämlich
that
in
sounds cool.
Lisbon.
That sounds cool.
Was that okay?
Yeah, sounds good. So we have this word here, magur. Of course, it's in the plural, magurim. Magur just means a place of residence.
Mhm.
And there's this false idea being spread around for a long time now that the word ger, which is from the same root, means a convert, and it doesn't mean convert at all. It only means a resident. Is all it means. And anyone can be a resident. And in fact, the participle gar is used for Levites who live in the different tribal areas. And so, if one thinks about it logically, if I say that a ger, which is the noun, is a convert, which that's not what it means, and that a convert would have to gar, which means he's converting, right? That's the participle. And so if I am truthful to a translation and translate every participle gar as converting instead of residing, then that would sound really strange that Abraham converted in the land of Canaan. Yaakov dwelt, or he lived in the land of his conversion. The Levites convert in the various tribal areas where they live. It makes no sense. And so that in itself will let you know that the word ger does not mean a convert at all.
I thought that the meaning of the word ger is a foreigner.
No, a ger is not a foreigner. Zar is a foreigner, or nochri is a foreigner, and that's the word zar actually means strange, really. And for instance, the Torah says that no zar is allowed to come into contact or have any part of the kahuna, the priesthood of Aaron. And it specifically says that the zar is anyone who is not from the seed of Aaron, which lets you know that even an Israelite from the tribe of Judah has nothing to do with the priesthood, because he would be considered zar he would be considered strange. In fact, the word zara in the feminine is used for Eish Zara, which is what the two sons of Aaron brought they call it strange fire.
Okay.
So it's something that doesn't belong there. Now, Nochri is a foreigner, and that means someone from a completely different nation.
Mhm.
And so a ger just means a resident, and it could be a foreigner, it could be an Israelite. And context really depends on the meaning that you take. You can't translate every instance of a ger as a convert, nor as a foreigner or someone or a stranger, however you want to look at it. So it's really context dependent on what the word ger, because all it specifically means is a resident.
Mhm.
In fact, if you want to say I live, in fact, we read that. Let me go back. We read that last week in the last week's parasha, where it says ويشلح يعقوب ملأخين لفناف إلى عصاب أخيه أرسل سيعير صدي إدom. And so Yaakov sent messengers before him to his brother Esau to the land of Seir, to the field of Edom. ويتساء أثام لمور, and he commanded them, saying, كح ثمرون لأدوني لعصاب, and so shall you speak to my master, to Esau. Ko amar avdecha Yaakov, so your servant Yaakov has said. Im Lavan garti. Now here you have the perfect verb from lagur, which is garti. I resided. Okay. Im Lavan garti wa ichar ad ata. And with Lavan, I lived, or I resided, and I delayed until now. So even I think in modern Hebrew, when you say I live somewhere, you say any gar, I live, which is in the present tense, or where did I live? Garti Germania. I had lived in Germany, or however you can say. So it just means to reside or to live somewhere. It doesn't mean to be a convert.
Okay.
But anyway, verse 2. أيلي تولدت يعقوب يوسف بن شبع إسرائيل شنا حيا رؤي أخيه بتصون وهو ناعر بني بلحة بني فلحة بني زربا نشي عبيب ويفي يوسف دبثام رعا يلعبيهم. These are the generations of Yaakov, or the genealogical record of Yaakov. Yosef, it begins with Yosef. He was 17 years old, and he was a shepherd with his brother of sheep, or of the flocks. And he was a young man with the children of Bilhah and Zilpah, who were the two servant girls that Lavan gave to his two daughters, Rachel and Leah, who were the wives of his father. And Joseph brought an evil report, their evil report, to their father. Dibba means a report, and in some places, it's, instead of being written with a daleth, is written with a taste. So it's tibba, but it means the same thing. It means a report.
Okay, the German?
Yep.
Hier folgt die Geschlechtsfolge Jakobs. Josef in einem Alter von 17 Jahren hütete mit seinen Brüdern das Kleinvieh und verkehrte als Knabe mit den Söhnen der Bilha und Silpa, den Frauen seines Vaters. Doch Josef überbrachte ihrem Vater allerlei üble Nachrichten von ihnen.
Wonderful. What the evil, it doesn't actually have to mean evil. Ra'ah is just the opposite of tov. Tov is what we normally translate as good or wholesome. And ra'ah or ra is the opposite of that. And that's also context dependent. It doesn't have to mean evil the way we would think of evil. It could just mean a bad report as opposed to good report. Not that maybe they were just being lazy with the sheep, or maybe they were mishandling the sheep, or it could have been anything. We don't really know. All it says is it wasn't a good report, whatever it was. And that in itself will go to explain some of the actions that their brothers will do later in the story, because they don't like him very much. Verse 3. וישראל אחב את יוסף מכל בניו, כי בן זקונים הוא לו, ועשה לו כתונת פסים. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all of his sons, because he was a son, and it says this word is zekunim, which means a son of zekun, or literally age, but it's in the plural, which is kind of strange, because he was the son, a son of his old age, is how it's normally translated. And so he made for him a coat of pasim. Pasim is said to be certain, like really fine embroidered stitch work or something like that. It's only used a few times in the entire Tanakh. Of course, we have it here. And the only other place that I can remember off the top of my head was in the story of Tamar, who was the daughter of the king David. And it says that such coats the women of the Israelites would wear in those days. But what it exactly is, we don't really know.
Okay. Nun liebte Israel den Josef mehr als alle seine Söhne, weil er ein Sohn seines hohen Alters war, und machte ihm einen bunten Rock.
Bunten Rock.
I think it would be mantle, mantle for coat.
Yeah, I think that would be a better instead of a skirt.
Yeah.
ויראו אחיו כי אותו אחיו אביהם מכל אחיו, וישנאו אותו ולא יכלו דברו לשלום. And his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all of his brothers, and they hated him. And they were not able to speak to him peace. So not only did Joseph bring back a bad report to their father, he also was beloved of his father more than the other brothers. Okay, the German.
I'm muting, so I don't know where this evening is coming from.
Yeah, I have no idea. But go ahead if you want to read the German.
The verse 5.
Yeah, 4. Verse 4.
Oh, I've read it already, but okay, maybe you didn't get it. Okay. Vers 4, als die Brüder sahen, dass ihr Vater ihn mehr liebte als alle seine Brüder, hassten sie ihn und konnten nicht freundlich mit ihm sprechen.
Okay. That I didn't hear, so evidently it might have been a little delay.
Okay.
Verse 5. ويحلم يوسف حلم ويغيد لإخاب ويوسف عود سنة. And Joseph had a dream, or he dreamed a dream, and he informed it to his brethren, and they hated him even more. And we'll understand why in just a minute, they hated him even more because of the dream.
Yes, because I think he was in the middle of all the brothers, or from the perspective of his father, and I think they got jealous of him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, einst hatte Josef einen Traum. Diesen erzählte er seinen Brüdern. Da hassten sie ihn nur desto mehr.
Yeah. And Joseph at this point was the youngest of the sons. He was the last one to be born at this point.
Yes.
And he brought a bad report to their father, which probably aggravated the other brothers. Then the brothers saw how much their father loved him, which we have to understand that even the mother was more loved than the mothers of these other sons. So not only did Joseph or Yaakov love Joseph more, but he loved his mother more also, and that was probably a sore point as well. Verse 6. ويومر عليهم شمعونا ححلهم حزي أشر حلمتي. And so he said to them, please listen to this dream which I have dreamed.
Sprach nämlich zu ihnen, hört doch den Traum, welchen ich geträumt habe.
Verse 7. وهني أنحن علمين בתוך השדה והנה قام علمתי וגם ניצבה והנה תסובנה علمותיכם وتشتهوين לעלמתי. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the midst of the field, and behold, my sheaf stood up, and stood or was erect, and behold, your sheaves encircled it, and prostrated to my sheaf.
Sprach, es war, als wenn wir Garben bänden auf dem Felde, und als wenn meine Garbe sich aufrichtete und stehen blieb, eure Garben aber sich herumstellten und sich vor meiner Garbe verbeugten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so now he just, to add insult to injury, he brings a bad report. His father loves him. His father loves his mother. more than the other brothers and their mothers. And now he tells them the dream that their sheaves prostrated to his. Okay, which seems like, hey, I'm better than you. Verse 8. وَيَوْمِرُ اللَّهِ حَمَلُوخ تِمْلُوخ عَلَيْنُ إِمَّا الشُّلْ تِمْشُلْ بَانُ وَيُصِيفُ عُود سِنُوثُ عَلْ حَلُمَثَا وَعَلْ دِبْرَ. And so they said to him, so his brothers said to him, will you certainly reign as a king over us? Will you certainly rule over us? And they hated him more because of his dreams and because of his words.
Da sprachen seine Brüder zu ihm: Denkst du etwa, uns als König zu regieren oder uns zu beherrschen? Sie hassten ihn also nur desto mehr wegen seiner Träume und wegen seiner Reden.
Verse 9. ويحلم عود حلم أخير ويصبر أثو لإخاه ويومر هيني حلمت حلم عود وهيني الشمس وهيريح وأحد عشر كوكبين مشتحوين لي. And so he dreamed another dream, and he related it to his brothers, and he said, behold, I have dreamed another dream. And look, the sun and the moon and 11 is 11 stars, which seems kind of strange because Benjamin wasn't born yet, I don't think. And 11 stars were prostrating themselves to me, or prostrating to me.
Er hatte noch einen anderen Traum und erzählte ihn seinen Brüdern, sprach nämlich: Siehe, ich habe noch einen Traum gehabt. Es war, als wenn die Sonne, der Mond und 11 Sterne sich vor mir verbeugten.
And so this is the two dreams of Yaakov, or Yosef, where he explains that, and this is a prophetic vision, but they don't know it yet, that his family is going to come to him and be subservient to him. And it seems like it would have to do with food, because we see that the dreams begin with the sheaves. They were the field binding sheaves, which is what you do when you cut wheat or barley. And we'll see later the dream of Pharaoh begins the same way. His first dream, I think, was of ears of grain. Verse 10. ويسبر إل أبي وإل إخاف ويجعرب أبي ويومر له ما حلم هذا أشر حلمت حذو نبو أني وإمك وأخيك لهشتهوث لك أرضا. And he related to his father and to his brothers, and his father chastised him. And he said to him, what is this dream which you've dreamed? Will I and your mother and brethren come to you to prostrate ourselves to the earth?
Dies erzählte er seinem Vater und seinen Brüdern. Der Vater gab ihm einen Verweis und sprach: Was ist das für ein Traum, welchen du geträumt hast? Soll ich, deine Mutter und deine Brüder kommen, um uns vor dir zur Erde zu verbeugen? He's quite really wondering about this statement of his son.
Yeah. So now it started with just his brothers, but now he includes his mother and father.
Yes.
Okay. Verse 11. ويقنعه إخاب وأبيه شمار et hadavar. And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter. I mean, he preserved it. He kept
Saved.
it. He saved it. That's right. He didn't forget what was being said to him.
Die Brüder wurden eifersüchtig auf ihn. Der Vater aber merkte sich dies.
Mm-hmm. Verse 12. ويلخوا إخاب ليرعوت את צאן אביהם בשכם. And so his brothers went to shepherd the flocks of their father in Shechem. Or Shechem. The
Shechem.
accent is on, yeah, Shechem. The accent is on the chem. So this is in a city called Shechem, which is in the inheritance of Joseph, and I want to say it's actually in the inheritance of Ephraim.
Mhm.
Today it's called Nablus.
Nablus?
Ja.
Shechem, okay. Einst gingen seine Brüder, um ihres Vaters Kleinvieh zu Shechem zu weiden.
Yeah. And so that was the end of the first Aliyah. And now we will begin with verse 13, the second Aliyah. ويومر يسرائيل إل يوسف هلو أخيך רועים בשכם לך وإשלחך עליהם ויאמר לו הנני. And so Israel, who was Yaakov, says to Joseph, aren't your brothers shepherding in Shechem? Go. I would like to send you to them. And he says to him, this is Joseph saying to his father, Hineni, here I am.
Da sprach Israel zu Josef: Weiden deine Brüder nicht zu Shechem? Komm, ich will dich zu ihnen schicken. Dieser antwortete: Ich bin einverstanden.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the German translation here because
Why?
he says "Ich will,"
Ich will.
yeah, which means I want. I'm desiring to do something, and that is exactly what this ishlahacha implies. It's not simply that I am sending you, but it's in what's called the cohortative, which means it expresses a desire, an intention, or
I
a
want
will.
to.
That's right. He says, I'm desiring, I would like to send you to them. And so the German actually, the German translation brought that out with the use of will, ich will. So verse 13 through nope, verse 14. ויאמר לו לך נא ראה את שלום אחיך ואת שלום הצאן وهشبيني דבר ويشلحه מעמק חברון ويبוא شכמה. And so he says to him, please go and look concerning the literally it says the peace of your brother, but it also peace Shalom means the well-being, the safety of your brothers, and also the well-being of the flocks, and bring me back word. And so he sent him out from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. The interesting thing is that Yaakov dwelt in Hebron, which is where I believe, well, I know that was where his grandfather and grandmother was buried, and I think Isaac was and Rivka were also buried there. So this is the burial plot that Abraham bought from the Hittites, from Ephron the Hittite.
Jener sprach: Geh doch hin, sieh nach dem Wohlbefinden deiner Brüder und der Herde und bringe mir Nachricht. Er schickte ihn los von dem Tal bei Hebron und er ging nach Shechem.
Verse 15. וימצאהו איש והנה טועה בשדה וישאלהו האיש לאמור מה תבקש. And this is really interesting. I've asked this question many times. It says, and a man found him, and behold, he was wandering, or he was lost in the field. And the man asked him, saying, what are you looking for? Now, I've always asked myself, who is this man that found him? It never tells you. Just some dude happened to find him.
Unterwegs fand ihn ein Mann, als er auf dem Feld irre ging. Der Mann fragte ihn: Was suchst du?
Verse 16. ויאמר את אחי אנוכי מבקש הרידנה לי איפה הם רועים. And so he says, I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me, where are they shepherding? Now, this is something interesting, and I've mentioned this many times before. In the German language, what they call Satzbau, when you build sentences, you construct sentences, you have a certain syntax that you normally follow. And the way I learned it was by a mnemonic, a memory tool. It's called Takamolo. And basically what that means is you build a sentence with the temporal, causal, modal, and then local. So as you're building a sentence in German, you start off with the subject, of course, and then you would have the verb. So those are the first parts of the sentence. The subject, verb, and then from now on to the end of the sentence, you have time. That's the temporal, the time. Today, tomorrow, at 2:00. Okay. The next is the causal. What's the reason? What's the point of what's going on in the sentence? Then you have the modal, how you did something, and then you end with what's called the locale, which is the place. Where are you going? Where's this going to be taking place? Now, the way it works is that for emphasis, you can start with any part of that. For instance, you can start at the place. If you want to emphasize the place as being the most important part of the sentence, then you start with the place. However, when you put the place there, then it comes verb subject. And then you go again with temporal, modal, or temporal causal, and then modal. You leave the place out, the locale, because you started with that. And you can do that with any part. And what that does is it puts emphasis on that part that you begin with. And so here we have the same idea in Hebrew. Okay, and I just want to point this out real quick because I always find this to be pretty interesting. So the man asked him, "What are you looking for?" And so he begins with the most important part of the sentence. Normally, you would say, "I'm looking for my brothers." That's how we would say it in English. I'm looking for my brothers. But he started out, "Eth achai anochi mavakesh." So he starts out with the emphasis, my brothers.
Mhm.
The brothers are now. It's not that I'm looking. English doesn't have that function, but in Hebrew it does. And I've always wondered if it wasn't Hebrew that influenced German, because you had lots of Israelites who've lived in the Rhineland area for a long, long time,
Yes.
and so and there's lots of Hebrew words in German.
Like muzzle.
And huh?
Like the word muzzle.
Mazel, yeah. We have lots of, for instance, I know you've heard of Hals and Beinbruch.
Yes.
That's actually comes from the Yiddish. Yiddish is almost Yiddish is a southeastern uh, uh, dialect of German. Is all that is, and it was used amongst the Jewish people living in Germany and Austria, and other places as well.
Mhm.
But it's mainly German. It's got a lot of other stuff in there too. But from what I have seen, is it's really, really close to Bayerish. Bayerish is the southern dialect of the Bayerish people of Bayern, which is the southern state or the southern um, region of Germany.
Mhm.
And so, as the Jews were living in Austria and Bayern, which is southern Germany, uh, they would speak Yiddish, and they incorporated a lot of Hebrew into their Yiddish, and so that when they were meeting each other or wishing each other luck, they would say "Hatzlacha uvracha," right, which means success and blessing, is what they were actually saying. The Germans heard it as Holz from Hatzlacha, Holz und Beinbruch, which means you break your neck and leg.
Yes.
And that's where we actually get the idea in English, for all the English people out there. Whenever someone's going out to do something and you're wishing them success, you tell them break a leg.
Yes.
But anyway, there's lots of German, lots of Hebrew influence in German, and I
Yes.
always wondered if syntax, because you find a lot of Hebrew syntax in German,
Mhm.
and especially this part that I'm talking about here, when you come up with emphasis.
Er sprach, meine Brüder suche ich. Sag mir doch, wo sie weiden. So he was just looking for someone to give this answer, I think, or?
Yeah, he was speaking to this guy that found him. Some guy found him.
No,
It
I
wasn't.
mean, he was already in his mind ready to give this answer because he was looking for his brother.
Yeah, well, the guy's asking him, "What are you looking for?" And he says, "My brothers. Tell me where they are." Now, who this guy was, we don't know, but evidently he knew who Joseph was. He knew who his brothers were, because Joseph didn't say, "I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are?" Or have you seen these guys here who are the sons of Yaakov? He doesn't. He just assumes, or I'm not sure if he's assuming. He tells them, from our point of view, Joseph already knows this guy, and knows that this guy knows where his brothers are.
Yes.
You see the point I'm getting at? And that's why I've always asked the question, who is this guy that found him? It was some guy who found Joseph. Joseph didn't just run up on him. He didn't say, "Oh, hey, let me ask this guy. Maybe he saw him." That's not That's not what the text is saying. It says this guy found Joseph as Joseph was wandering around in the field looking for his brothers and asked him, "What are you looking for?"
Ja.
And so Joseph already assumed that this guy knew where his brother was. So he said, "Tell me, please tell me." Haridan, tell me. This is the very polite form. Please tell me. Where are they? Okay, so verse 17.
Formal.
Huh?
When he says, please tell me, in German it's the same. Sag mir doch. So
Yes,
it's imperative.
very polite. Yeah, that's right.
Imperative.
We don't have those. There's lots of subtleties in German and also in Hebrew that we don't have. You know, the only thing you can do is say, "Please tell me," but that's not actually a please. That's doch is the na.
Yes.
Verse 17. ويومر حائش نسعو مزه كي شمعتي אומרים נלך דותינה וילך יוסף אחר אחיו וימצאם בדותן. And so the man says, they journeyed from here because I heard saying, it should be them saying, Nelecha. Now the German should say, Lass uns gehen. I'm guessing. This is also a very polite form. Nelecha. This is the cohortative again. Let us go to Dothan. And so Joseph went after his brothers, and he found them in Dothan.
Yes. Der Mann sprach, Sie sind von hier weggezogen, denn ich habe sie sagen hören, lasst uns gen Dothan gehen. Josef ging seinen Brüdern nach und fand sie zu Dothan.
Yeah, and so that's also the polite form. Lassen uns gehen. Lassen uns gehen.
Let's go.
Let's go.
English.
Yeah, the English word let. Okay, that is a old English term, and it actually comes from Latin, I think. But it's asking permission, and that's why I say, like when we read in the creation story where it says, "Wayomer Elohim Yehi Or, Wayehi Or," and God said, "Light should be," and there was light. This form Yehi is a jussive. Now the jussive really can express many things, but mainly what it expresses is like the cohortative. It's a desire. It's a wish or an intention to do something. The cohortative is used in the first person. The jussive is used in the third person. Okay, and it doesn't make any difference whether it's singular or plural. The difference between that and the second person is, in the second person, it's the imperative. The imperative is now the command form. All right, and so that's where you get the English let. And so I don't like to use the word let when it says "let there be light" in most English translations, because that can imply that God is asking permission to make something. When that's not really what's going on. Let's see, where am I at?
18.
18. ويرؤوا أثو ميرحوق وبثيرم يقرب إليهم ويتنكلوا أثو لحميثو. And so they saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they plotted against him to kill him. that's bad. The only piece that they had from Joseph and his relationship with his fathers when they're out in the field. Now here he comes, and they're like, oh man, let's kill this dude.
Als sie ihn von fern erblickten, ehe er noch zu ihnen herankam, fassten sie schon den bösen Anschlag, ihn zu töten.
Yeah. Verse 19. ويومرو إيش الأخير هني بعل هحلموف halaze ba. And so they said, each one to his brother, look, the master of dreams. This master of dreams is coming. This word halaze, we actually have in Arabic too when we say alladhi, which is a demonstrative pronoun, that which, or the specific one. And that's interesting, that the ha is the definite article in Hebrew, whereas the al is the definite article in Arabic. And so the lazi, or this is laze in Arabic, is lavi, and so you have halavi or halaze, and it's the same thing. So this dreamer or this Lord of dreams is coming. Ba.
Einer sprach zum anderen. Dort kommt der Träumer her.
Yeah, that was a little short and sweet.
Very short, yes.
The träumer.
It's in English like, look, there the dreamer comes.
Yep. Well, the Hebrew has Baal Hahalom, which is the Lord or the master of dreams. Is
okay.
What they're saying here in Hebrew. Verse 20. وَعَتَّى لِخُو وَنَهَرَغَيْهُ وَنَشْلِخَيْهُ بِأَحَدْ حَبْرُوث وَأَمَرْنُ خيارة أخذته ونرأي ما يهيو حلموثا. And now, let's go and kill him, and we will kill him, and we will throw him down or cast him down into one of the wells, and we shall say a wild or an evil or wild animal has eaten him, and let us see what shall become of his dreams.
So they want to punish him, right?
They want to kill him.
And punish him, yes.
Yeah.
Nun kommt, wir wollen ihn erschlagen, in eine der Gruben werfen und sagen, ein wildes Tier habe ihn gefressen. Alsdann wollen wir sehen, was seine Träume sein werden.
Yeah. Verse 21. ويسمع رؤوبين ويتليه ميرام ويومر لو نكين نافش. And Reuben heard, and he rescued him from their hands, and he says, "We shall not kill anyone."
Als Reuben es hörte, errettete er ihn von ihrer Hand. Sprach nämlich, wir wollen ihn nicht ums Leben bringen.
Yeah. So here he's rescued from their power, from their hands, by Reuben. And
Hacham, what is the position of Reuben among the other brothers?
Reuben is the firstborn of Jacob. He's the eldest.
Okay.
Verse 22. وَيَوْمِرْ عَلَيْهِمْ وَرَأُوذَيْنِ أَلْ تِشْفِخُوا دَمْ حَشْلِخُوا أَثُوهُ إِلْ حَبْبُورْ حَزَيْ أَشْرَ بِمِدْبَارِ وَيَذْ أَلْ تِشْلِخُوا لِمَاعًا هَتْسِيلْ أَثُو مِيَدَمْ لِهَشِيبُوا إِلْ أَبِيبِ. And so Reuben spoke to them, you shall not shed blood. Cast him, hashlichu, set him down into this well, which is in the wilderness. But you shall not stretch out your hand against him. And this was to save him from their hand so that he could return him to his father. So Reuben is wanting to bring him back home. So he says, let's just put him in this well. So the intention of Reuben was to go back, take him out of the well, and bring him home. Okay?
Als Reuben es hörte, errettete er ihn von ihrer Hand. Sprach nämlich, wir wollen ihn nicht ums Leben bringen. Weiter.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's verse 22. Reuben sprach ferner zu ihnen, vergießt kein Blut. Werft ihn wieder in diese Grube, die in der Wüste liegt, legt aber keine Hand an ihn. Dies sprach er, um ihn von ihrer Hand zu erretten und zu seinem Vater zurückzubringen.
Genau. And that is the end of the second aliyah, and now we'll begin with the third aliyah. Verse 23. وَيَهِي كَأَشَرْ بَا يُوسَيْف إِلْ إِخَافِ وَيَفْشِيتُ et Yosef et كُتَنْتُ et كَثُنَث hapasim asher alav. And as Yosef came to them, to his brothers, they stripped off, Yosef from the ketuna, the coat that he had upon him. Now, this is interesting. This word, this is the PL form, which is the causative, yafshit. And this comes from Parashat, and this is where we get the I have to respond. Excuse me. So that should know everyone. I see everybody writing in the comments. So this word Parashat is used as a form of exegesis, and it usually means the straightforward or the simple. When you want to say simply as an adverb, you say pashut. But in the Torah, whenever it talks about taking the hide off of one of the animals, it uses the same verb. And so here we have it is taking the coat off of Yosef. And so when we look at the idea of exegesis, which is talking about bringing some points out of the text itself, Karaites are really famous for what's called Peshat. Peshat doesn't only mean how you would simply read it, the simple reading, as most claim, because it's exposing the verse. You look at the verse, you strip it down to its parts, and the Karaites, when they do exegesis, they do it in such a way that they look at the roots, they look at the parts of speech, and they compare the verbs, the forms, they pay attention also to the vowels, which is the vocalization, as well as the accents, because accents can change the meaning of a word depending on how it can be spelled the same, but depending on how it's accented, you can actually change the meaning of words. And so all of that is also in what we call Parashath.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to explain that because we actually have this verb here in this verse.
Okay, so Vers 23.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the first 23 and 24 are one sentence in my German translation.
Okay, read them both, and I'll just, or you want me to read 24? I can
I
read
will,
24.
okay.
Let me read.
Excuse me.
Huh?
Excuse me.
Let me read 24 real quick, and then you can read them both together.
24 is Komma, nahmen ihn und warfen ihn in die Grube. Die Grube aber war leer und kein Wasser drinnen. This is verse 24.
Yep.
And I start with 23.
Okay.
Als nun Josef zu seinen Brüdern gekommen war, zogen sie ihm seinen Rock aus, den bunten Rock nämlich, den er anhatte, nahmen ihn und warfen ihn in die Grube. Die Grube aber war leer und kein Wasser drin.
Yeah. And so verse 24, وَيِقَحُوهُ وَيَشْلِهُ أَوْثَوْ حَبَّورَ وَحَبَّور رَيْقٍ أَيْنْبَوْ مَايِمْ. And so they took him and they cast him into the well, but the well was empty. There was no water in it. Okay. Verse 25. ويشفوا لأخل لهم ويسؤوا عينيهم ويرؤوا وهن أرحت يشمعيلين باع بجلعاد وجمليهم نوسئين نخوف وسري ولوت هولخين لهوريد متصريما. And so they return to eating their food. So they throw them in a well and they return to eating their food.
Mhm.
And they lifted up their eyes and they saw Orahat Ishmaelim, which means a company, a group, a traveling group of Ishmaelites. They were coming from Gilead, and their camels were loaded or carrying nechoth. Nechoth is a gum resin, and seri is a perfume or a spice, and lot is also a resin. Lot is also used for myrrh.
Myrrh.
Yeah. And they were coming to go down, or they were traveling to go down to Egypt, or to bring it down to Egypt.
Hernach setzten sie sich, Mahlzeit zu halten. Sie sahen sich und erblickten eine Karawane von Yishmaelim. Die kam von Gilad und ihre Kamele waren beladen mit Gewürzen, Balsam und Lotus. Sie reisten, solches nach Mitzrayim hinabzuführen.
Yeah, I'll tell you something funny about this word malzite.
what's with the why are we speaking crowd here?
What?
What's going on?
He was the only one in the live stream, and I said that if he speaks German, so I said if he wants to give a German translation, that's fine. This word malzite. When I first started learning German, I would be somewhere, and I remember my first job. Okay, I was eating a salad, and everyone kept coming by, and they said malzite. Now I understood what mal meant. Mal means a time, like once or twice. You say zweimal, twice, right? And Zeit means time. And so I'm thinking, are they telling me I'm only supposed to eat this once? Or what are they saying? I didn't understand what in the world they were talking about. And then I understood it's not mal, it's male. It's with a
Malen.
H. Yeah, that's right. To eat.
Comes from malen.
Meal. Yep, that's where you get the word meal from. Meal time. Yeah.
Okay.
What were they saying? Like bon appetit?
Yeah, basically.
Guten Appetit.
Yeah.
Huh? That's what he's doing in Israel too.
Yeah.
If you're eating, everyone who passes by is going to say betavon, betavon, betavon. Sometimes you can't even eat because everyone's so busy telling you betavon.
You can, Melech, you can say Mahlzeit also for Bon Appetit or Guten Appetit, or in German it's one word, Mahlzeit.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep that in mind.
To eat.
Next time I'm there, I will walk around to everyone I see eating and say Mahlzeit.
Mahlzeit.
But I don't get it. Why tell them mealtime? They're eating. They already know it's mealtime.
It's just the way they say
Eat now.
good meal.
I know. It was kind of a joke.
Yeah. So
Not a very good
verse 26, ويومر يهوذا إن إخاف ما بتسع كي نهروخ את أخيנו وكيسينو את דמו. And so Yehuda said to his brothers, what will it profit us? How is it going to benefit us if we kill our brother? And we will be covered with his blood.
Yep.
Da sprach Jehuda zu seinen Brüdern: Was für Vorteil haben wir, wenn wir unseren Bruder umbringen und bedecken sein Blut?
Yeah. Uh, 27. לכו ונמכרנו לישמעאלים וידינו אל תחייבו כי אחינו בשרנו הוא וישמעו אחיו. Let's go and sell him to the Ishmaelites, but let our hands not be against him. For he is our brother, our flesh. And and his brothers listened.
Mm-hmm.
So we first have Reuben, who said we're not going to kill anybody, and then we have Yehuda saying also, look, we don't want to be responsible for killing our own flesh and blood, our brother.
Right.
Kommt, wir wollen ihn den Yishmaelim verkaufen und unsere Hand nicht an ihn legen, weil er unser Bruder, unser Fleisch ist. Die Brüder gehorchten.
Yeah, 28. ويعبروا أناشيم مديانين صحرين ويمشخوا ويعلوا את יוסף מן הבור וימכרו את יוסף לישמעאלים ב20 כסף ויביאו את יוסף מצרימה. So now the intention was to sell him to the Ishmaelites, right?
Yes.
Here it says that some men of Midian, and it's interesting because the word Midian means controversial or argumentative or troublesome. And so it says, while it does actually say Midianites, some Midianite men passed by, Soharim, which means they were doing business. and they yamshahu, which means they drew up, which is what you normally do for water. And they brought Yosef up from the well, and they sold Yosef to the Ishmaelites. So now you had the Midianites, who were the sons of Keturah, who were the sons of Abraham, and then they sold him to the Ishmaelites, who were also from Ishmael, who was the son of Abraham.
Hello.
I hear you. For 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Yosef to Egypt. So the Midianites pulled him out from the well, sold him to the Ishmaelites, and the Ishmaelites brought him to Egypt. Melech, I hear you fine.
Hello?
What?
I hear you fine. Your video is frozen, but I hear you fine.
I don't know what's going on. It's bad connection. 1 second. Let me try this. And I hear you breaking up. I don't know if it's mine or if it's yours, actually.
Who knows?
Shall I continue?
Oh.
Yeah.
Vers
what chapter and verse are we on now exactly?
We're in 30. Yep. 38 verse 38. We're in chapter 37, I think.
37, 28.
Mm-hmm.
28.
Yeah. 28, yeah.
Okay.
Als die Länder, Kaufleute von Midian vorbeikamen, zogen sie und brachten Josef herauf aus der Grube und verkauften Josef den Ischmaelim 20 Silberstücke. Diese brachten Josef nach Mitzrayim. One question, Hakham. Do you have in your English translation the word Mitzrayim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, in the English I don't know. I don't have an English translation.
Okay.
I'm looking. I'm looking in the Hebrew. And it says
Okay. Thank you.
So verse 29. ويشوف رؤوبين الحبور وهنا أين يوسف ببور ويكرع it بغضب. And so Reuben, we read earlier, said, let's put him in this well because he was wanting to bring him back to his father. So now they went to finish eating. Reuben goes back to the well, and it says he looked and there was no Joseph in the well. And so he tore.
Yaakov, you're breaking up a lot. I'm just wondering if Hakan also hears you breaking up, or if it's on my side, because it's very difficult.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
So am I breaking up, or do you hear me fine?
I can hear you fine, Yaakov.
Okay, so evidently it must be your connection.
All right. Yeah, it might very well be. Yeah. Hold on a second.
So 29. And so Reuben returned to the well, and he looked, and there was no Joseph in the well, and so he tore his clothes. Now, recently, I saw a video from one of our fellow humble Karaites who made the statement that Karaite comes from Qara'ah, which means to separate, to split.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But that's not true.
Okay.
Having a lot of trouble hearing you, but okay. I wanted to say something here, which is in verse 26. It says, "Wayomer Yehuda el Achiv el Echav ma betza ki na'arog et achinu v'kisinu et amo." What is, and the word there used is betza. Yeah. Now betza actually is used many times for financial profit.
Yep.
And profit? It's interesting. Yeah, literally what profit. And it's interesting that in the next verse they sell him to the Ishmaelim, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
They were discussing.
Can't hear a thing.
The idea was, look, what are we going to gain from it? okay, financially. If we kill him, let's sell him.
Right.
That's the
Right.
idea. That's what they're talking about. But before they could actually do it, some other people beat him to the punch.
Okay, continue.
No, but my point is that they in the end, right? So they were thinking, so there's the betza. By selling him, they actually get something, they actually profit off him, right?
Yeah.
It's not that they just gave him away to the Ishmaelim, okay?
No,
they were planning to sell him to the Ishmaelim. Yeah.
That's right. That's what they were. That's the question is, what do we gain if we kill him? If we kill him, we're not going to gain anything. So that's the question.
But if we sell him, we gain money.
That's
it's interesting that's my point, you know.
Yeah.
That it's interesting that that maybe the word betza is used deliberately there to show that they were thinking along those lines.
But do you think
I'm gonna come in. I honestly, to be honest, I don't think so. But I'm just bringing that point up as a possibility. I'm gonna leave here. I'm gonna come in from my computer, and maybe the connection will be better. All right, so I'll be right back.
All right. Okay. Hakan, if you want. Yep. 29.
Als Reuben zur Grube zurückkam und Josef nicht mehr in der Grube war, zerriss er seine Kleider, kehrte zu seinen Brüdern zurück und sprach: Der Knabe ist nicht da. Ich aber, wo soll ich hin?
Yeah, so that was 29 and also 30.
29 and 30 in one sentence in the German translation.
Yep. So I'll read verse 30 now. ويشوف الإخاء ويومار حيالد أينن وأني أنا أنيبا. And so he returned to his brothers and he said, the child is not there. And me, where am I going to go?
Well, I think he is getting fear of his father.
Because Reuben wanted to bring him home. Even though his other brothers wanted to sell him, his idea was put him in the well. He wants to bring him home. So evidently, while they're discussing this, Reuben goes back because he's wanting to save his life. He wants to bring him to his father. And now he finds out that the child is not there. So now he goes back to the brother. Hey, he ain't there.
Hello?
31.
Hey, I hear you fine, Melech.
All right, I hear you better too. I don't know why it's not working on my phone, but whatever the reason. So, okay. Yeah. I'm just opening this up here.
So, verse 31.
Yeah.
ويقحو كثونث يوسف ويشحتوا سعير الزيم ويتبلوا حكتونث بدام. And so they took Joseph's coat and they killed a goat and they dipped the coat in blood, which was what they were going to say to begin with. We'll kill an animal, or we'll actually say an animal killed him.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to kill him and then kill an animal and say that an animal killed him. So this is their, now they're going back to the original plan, which was to kill him.
I also wanted to point something out. Else out here, which is that in the end, when the blessings are given at the end of the book of Genesis, Reuven he's basically knocked off his perch as firstborn because of this supposed incident an incident where he apparently slept with one of his father's concubines. But what's that?
He slept with Bilhah.
Does it say that explicitly?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it saying that. Really? I don't remember for some reason. But okay. And really? Where does it say that?
Just a second. No. So this is 35:22. And it says, وَيَهِي بِشْكُونْ يِسْرَائِيل بَأَرَتْ هَهِي وَيَلِخْ رَأُوبَيْن وَيِشْقَاف إِت بِالْحَا بِلَيْغَشْ أَبِيهِ وَيِشْمَعْ يِسْرَائِيل وَيِحْيُوا بْنِي يَعْقُوب شَنِيمْ عَسَى. So that's in chapter 35, verse 22.
For some reason, I forgot that. Okay. Hold on. Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's pretty bad. I mean, that's that's definitely enough to knock one off the perch of being the firstborn. But I did want to point out here that it's Reuven who wants to save Yosef, right?
Yeah. After
Reuven,
the events of sleeping with his stepmom.
Right. Which now brings it to mind that maybe he wanted to kind of, maybe he knew he did this horrible thing, so he's trying to, get back good graces by trying to save his favorite son, his father's favorite son.
It could very well could be.
Again, just speculation.
Oh, okay, Hakan, if you want to go ahead and
Sie nahmen Josefs Rock, schlachteten einen Ziegenbock und tunkten den Rock in das Blut, ließen den bunten Rock ihrem Vater überbringen und sagen, dies haben wir gefunden. Erkenne doch, ob es deines Sohnes Rock ist oder nicht. So, verse 31 and 32 are again in the same sentence in the German translation.
Yep, so I'll just go through 32 and read that and then translate it. ويشلخوا كثونث حبسين ويبيئوا إلى أبيهم ويؤمروا زوت متانو حكيرنا حكثونث بنخهي إملو. And so they sent the coat of colors, and they came to their father, and they said, "This is what we found. Recognize if this is the coat of your son or if it's not." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So verse 33.
It's interesting. Just another insight here that Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
I hear you. Fine.
Oh, I'm never sure if I'm being heard or not. But okay, not because. Okay, so just another interesting insight. When you see, so you have a recurrent problem of barrenness with the patriarchs and matriarchs, right? So Sarah was barren for many years. Rachel was barren for many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the matriarchal side. On the patriarchal side, you have a recurrence of basically a threat of Abraham. He had to go sacrifice Yitzhak. He was told to go sacrifice Yitzhak. He thought he was going to lose his, what had become his favorite son or his inheritance. And here you have the similar kind of replay that that Yaakov has to deal with the loss of his favorite son. You can even say the same thing happened in the case of in Yitzhak's case with his two sons, Esav and Yaakov, that Yaakov's life was being threatened, and I don't think Yitzhak was particularly worried, but certainly Rivka was, and Rivka over and over again of the son, the next generation in the inheritance line, or the favorite son, you could say, of either being lost or almost lost or threatened to be lost, right?
Mm-hmm. Is it interesting too that,
and it seems to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's interesting too that in the time of Abraham there was a famine, and he went down to Egypt.
Right.
In the time of Yitzhak there was a famine. He didn't go down to Egypt.
Right.
And now there's about to be another famine.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of repetition over the patriarchs, right? We saw last week the repetition over with Avimelech messing with with Sarah, and then with Rivka, right?
Yep.
We see the constant changing of the firstborn. Okay, so Yishmael is the firstborn of Abraham, but he's thrown off his perch in favor of Yitzhak. Esav is the firstborn of Yitzhak, and he's thrown off his perch in favor of Yaakov. And Reuven is the firstborn, and he's thrown off his perch in favor of Yosef.
Mm-hmm.
So these repetitions that we see throughout the patriarchs, it's almost like they're reliving each other's, lives through the generations. It's very interesting. There is a statement by the rabbis. I think it's something like Siman Avot. No, I'm sorry. Maseh Avot Siman Nabanim, which means that the actions of the fathers are signed to the sons. And basically, if I remember correctly from my yeshiva days, what they mean by that is something a little bit different, which is that we are supposed to imitate, maybe in specific laws. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up again. But in specific laws, we're supposed to imitate what the patriarchs went through or what they did. Maybe the example would be the Gid HaNasheh, right? That it says explicitly that we don't eat the Gid HaNasheh because the Gid HaNasheh of Yaakov, as we saw last week's parsha, was injured during the fight with the angel. But there is this idea that there's this kind of repetition between the sons that happens to the patriarchs.
Yep. And that eating the I think they call it the sciatic nerve, but I'm not really sure if that's
huge the way they translate it. But they don't know what it is. There is speculation I learned many years ago that it might be the male private part of the animal, and no, it's a completely reasonable thing because the yid means like the vein, right? Nasheh, some people say, comes from nashim, right? So yeah, and we also know that the Torah constantly speaks in euphemisms when it comes to stuff like that. So it's an entirely reasonable speculation, right?
Yeah. But the point I'm getting at is that is not specifically mentioned in the covenant of Sinai, that of something that we're not allowed to eat. That's something that's before. But when you look at some things that the patriarchs did, we're actually told we can't do those things. For instance, Amram, who is the father of Moses and Aaron, married his aunt, his father's sister, which is something we're told we're not allowed to do.
Or we're not allowed to marry a sister and a woman and her own sister.
Right. I was about to say. So now you have Rachel and Leah, who were married. We also have Sarah, who's the stepsister. They have the same father but different mothers, and that's forbidden. So whereas we have some things that the patriarchs did, and we're specifically told we are not allowed to do those things.
Yep.
But then we have something that they took it upon themselves not to do, and it says, and the Israelites don't eat this part, whatever it is, even till now. That's not actually explained in the covenant of Sinai of something that we're not allowed to eat. Whereas there are specific parts of the animal that we're not allowed to eat, but that's not one of them.
Yep.
Whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a lot of incest stuff that happened among the patriarchs is later outlawed, and a couple of others.
So Vers
You know what they say?
33.
Incest, the game the whole family can play. Sorry.
So, where are we now? Verse 33.
Nannte ihn und sprach: Es ist der Rock meines Sohnes, ein wildes Tier hat ihn gefressen. Josef ist zerrissen worden.
Yeah. So, ويكيرا ويومر كثونة بني خيارعا أخذته Tarof Yosef. And he recognized it, and he says, "This is the coat of this is my son's coat. Some wild animal. We say ra'a, which is not necessarily wild, but it just is the opposite of told. A bad animal or a wild animal has eaten him. Yosef is certainly torn. Now, this is something I want to point out. We have two words side by side, tarof and turaf. Tarof is the infinitive, and turaf is the passive. Now, tarof is a pa'al infinitive. It's the simple stem, but we have turaf, which is the I don't want to say the intensive stem, but that's what they usually call it. That's the G stem in some grammars, which stands for geminate. That's where the second radical is geminated. And this is what we call the pu'al, which is a passive form. And so it says he is certainly torn. Is torn. Now, if now this is a pet peeve of mine for some people who want to change Hebrew and say that there was only one vowel, and they always I don't know why they always assume it's the A vowel, but that seems to be the go-to vowel in the ancient Hebrew for some reason. So if, for instance, that were true, which we know not to be true, it would be taraf yawasaf. So how would you even begin to understand what he's saying? You would, you'd have to have the passive. Okay.
Right.
And so that requires vowels, different vowels. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So you have the infinitive and the passive. Verse 34. ويقرأ يعقوب سملفا وياسم ساق بمثنى ويتقبل على بنو يميم رابين. And so Yaakov tore his clothes, and he set sack. This is sackcloth upon his loins, and he mourned for his son many days.
Jakob, Vers 34, Jakob zerriss seine Kleider. legte einen Sack um seine Lenden und trauerte um seinen Sohn lange Zeit. So is Hacham Yaakov, one question, the word sack, is it the same in Hebrew?
Yeah, sack. That's where you get the word sackcloth. That's where
Okay,
the sack.
German is also sack. Sack.
Yeah. Yep. We call them burlap sacks or sack.
Okay.
And I think it's called burlap. I don't know if burlap's the material.
I don't know. We don't know if it's really burlap. That's usually what they, who knows.
That's what they say today.
Yeah.
Is burlap. But
Mhm.
I don't know if that's actually the material or what. But we just know that's where the idea of this word sack comes from.
Right. And we see also that, morning rituals, you can make a whole list of different morning rituals, and here are two of the ones that we see again and again, right? So tearing the clothes and putting some kind of, cheap, cheap material around his cloths, his loins, right? So we'll see that. We could see that again and again in the Torah, these morning rituals. In fact, to this very day, when you find out that someone who's close to you died, you're supposed to tear your clothes. That's in rabbinical law.
Yeah. So, where are we now? Verse 25?
35.
35, yeah, excuse me. وَيَقُومُ قُلْ بَنَاهُ وَقُلْ بَنُوثَاهُ. And that's a good question now I'm about to ask. لِنَحَمُوهُ وَيَمَائِينَ لِهِتْ نَحِيمُ وَيُومِرْ كِي أَيْرِدْ إِلْبَنِي أَذَيْلْ شَأُلَا وَيَيْفْقْ أَوْثُو أَبِيهُ. And so all of his sons and all of his daughters. Now we know he had plenty of sons. How many daughters did he have? And it says they stood up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he says, because I will go down to my son mourning in Sheol, which is the grave. And so his father mourned him or cried.
Sons and daughters might, mean grandsons and granddaughters as well.
Could be. That's the way I looked at it. And
right.
there was when we look at Yitzhak, when he gave the blessing to Yaakov, which he thought was Esau, he said, "Be a lord to all the sons of your mother," and that's another thing. I mean, he only had one brother that we know of, and so it had to include not only his actual physical brother, which is this one son of his mother, but also his descendants, the sons that would come after.
And also, we have an exact count of how many people go down to Egypt,
which are 70,
which is exactly 70, and those people are listed explicitly by name, every single one of them. And the only girl that's listed there is Dinah, right? So you could say, oh well, it's not counting the. You could say it's not counting the daughters, right? Or it's not counting the women, right? That would be a reasonable assumption. But if it's not counting the women, then why would Dinah be counted? And then you could say, well, it's counting Dinah because she's the only one who's really mentioned by name in the in the story because of her incident with Shechem. Right, but that I don't think that really holds water. So I think that the only explanation, right? I mean, you could say that. You could claim, well, the daughters aren't counted except for Dinah, because Dinah is the only one of important story. But it just doesn't. I don't think that holds water. So I think the only reasonable explanation here is when it says B'nav and B'notav, it means his male and female descendants. We already know that some of the sons of Yaakov have already given birth, right? We have the case explicitly. I think it's in Genesis 35 or 36, if I remember correctly, with Yehuda
We're about to read that here in just a few minutes, in just a few verses.
Okay, my mistake. Right. Okay, so we're coming up to it. Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's in the 4th Aliyah, which is coming up.
Okay.
And yeah, you're right. So the Judah actually has sons. He has 3 sons that we know of.
Right.
Of course, 2 of them died.
Two died from jerking off.
Yeah, well, it wasn't jerking off, but
well, that's what the rabbis taught us.
Well, the rabbis are incorrect because it says that while he was having sex with her, he pulled out.
I know exactly what it says. I'm just making fun of the ridiculous Christian and pagan influenced asceticism of the rabbis. In fact, they used to tell us that was worse than that was worse than murder, because when you murder someone, you only kill one person, but when you do that, you're killing millions upon millions of little children. So you're not just murdering. You know, Hitler only killed 6 million, but you're killing 10 or 20 million.
That's all nonsense. Look,
you're a mass murderer every time you engage in that activity.
Well, that's not even the reason why the 2 sons, we don't know why the heir was killed. It doesn't even say. It just says he was a rotten kid.
It doesn't say why. It doesn't say why heir. Oh yeah, it does say with Onan, right? Yeah, it doesn't say with heir. That's right.
With heir, it doesn't say, but with Onan, that's right. It says specifically what was the problem. It wasn't that he spilled his seed on the ground. It was because he was supposed to have seed. This is where the whole idea of Yabam comes from, where he goes in and provides an heir for the brother that died. We see this is actually something that's carried over in the covenant of Sinai, and it was because he says, "This will not be my son." That's why he spilled it on the ground, and that's why that was what was considered evil. And
right. In other words, he could have said, "Listen, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do levirate marriage. I don't want to do yibum." Right? The Torah later on provides a ritual for refusing to do yibum. It's, you know, you're basically kind of ostracized, but you're allowed to refuse to do it, right? But he didn't. Yeah. He didn't do that. He went and had sex. I mean, I'll say it very, in a very blunt way. He went and screwed, his dead brother's wife, and wouldn't even, have the kindness of finishing off the job and giving his dead brother's wife children. So he's basically like effing his dead brother's wife without any benefit to his dead brother or to her coming out of it, because she didn't have children either.
Yeah, so, I hear lots of nonsense from not only from rabbis but from lots of people. I get all kind of crazy questions.
Yeah, same here.
And I always ask the people, and the way I answer questions, I always ask questions, and it drives a lot of people nuts, because it's not that I'm trying to test you to see what you know, which is sometimes
trying to make people think.
That's right. I want you to think about what is actually in the text. Well, tell me, what does it say? What does the Torah actually talk about here? How far can we go, or how far shouldn't we go? And this is what I was getting about. We in the second Aliyah, we had this term, or actually that was in the first Aliyah, I think. No, that was in the second Aliyah. It says, and whenever Yosef came near to him, where was it? Give me just a second. It says they took off his coat, and they used the word, the verb, yeshitu. Thank you, buddy. or Yefshi 2. I think what verse is there? Here it is, yeah. This is actually the first verse of the third Aliyah, which is 23. Verse 23, it says, وَيْهِ كَأَشِرْ بَا يُوسَيْف إِلْ إِخَابِ وَيَفْشِتُ et Yosef. Now, this word Yafshi, it comes from the root Pashat, which is where we get what most Karaites call the simple. And so Karaites are known for using a simple understanding of the text. And it's not always that it has to mean the simple, plain reading, because the word Pashat has more meaning than just that. Here it's talking about stripping off his clothes. And the early Karaite grammarians, when you read their commentaries and stuff, they didn't just read the text and say, oh, well, that's all it says. They actually broke it down. They broke it down into the verb roots, the nouns. They were really careful about how it was vocalized, how it was accented, and they did that because there's lots of meaning in the grammar of the text. And so the Peshat doesn't mean always just however you read it. It means that you go in depth with what's in the verse itself. And then you compare it with how things are used everywhere else. And I said all that to say something, and I can't remember what the point was. But anyway, I hear lots of crazy things from, and that's just, it's not that the questions themselves are crazy. There's just some really weird concepts. There's this one rabbi out there on YouTube now because, of course, you have some book called the Zohar, which says that Cain and Abel were actually reptilian. They were descendants from the serpent. And this garbage is where you have this. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called the serpent seed doctrine. I heard this once years and years ago.
I haven't had the pleasure.
Well, when I first heard it, I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And it's mainly amongst Christians. I don't know exactly where it started amongst the Christians, but I'm pretty sure whoever started that read the Zohar, got it from Kabbalah, because that's the same thing they teach. But they say that Eve had sex with the serpent in the Garden of Eden, and that's where Cain came from, not Abel, but Cain. And that even the Edomites and all these other people who aren't Israelite are supposedly descendants of the devil, is what they're saying, which is all nonsense. If you even read the text when it talks about the birth of Cain, she says, I have acquired a man from God. So, with the help of God. So there's no way possible it would have come from the serpent. But anyway.
Yeah.
Craziness. All right, where were we? Anyway.
Good question.
Verse 26. Now, this is a different word. This it says, "Waham Midanim Nakhuru Otho Ir Mitzrayim Lifotifar Saris Para'o Sarhat Tabahim." And it says the Midanim. This is different than Midyanim. If we think about this, there were two sons, or there were more than two sons of Avram from Keturah, but two of them was Midan and then Midian. So at the very first instance, it was talking about Midian, and now it's Midan. So either the Midianites passed them off to the Midianites, who sold them to the Ishmaelites, or however it works. But anyway, it seems like they're conflated, right? Because it says the Midianites sold them to the Ishmaelites, who brought them to Egypt. But here it says that it was the Midianites, in fact, who sold him to Egypt to Potiphar. Now, Potiphar is a shortened form of Potipharah. Okay, Potipharah actually means in Egyptian, Poti means a gift. Pa is of. Ra is the sun god Ra, so it means the gift of Ra. And so when you see Potiphar, it's actually shortened form of Potipharah. It's the same guy, and he is called the Seris Parao, which means the minister of Pharaoh, and he is called the Sar Hat-Tabahin. Sar means the chief. Tabahin, Tabah here is literally a butcher, but is talking about the executioner. Pay attention to this part here, because when we get later into the story of Joseph, Joseph is handed over to the jail. The jail is actually in the house of the Sar Hat-Tabahin, which is Potiphar. So he was sold to Potiphar. He was over the entire household of Potiphar. And then because of this incident with the wife of Potiphar, he's taken from the position of being over the entire house and put into jail. But he wasn't put into prison as a punishment, so to speak. He was put there to keep him away from the plotting wife of Potiphar. And that's how we understand it, because the jail is actually in his house. And that's why Joseph was over the jail. And that's why when it says that the two stewards of Pharaoh later are brought to jail, it says that Potiphar, or the Sar Hat-Tabahin, okay, it says the chief butcher put these two under the control of Joseph. So Joseph he didn't go from the house of Potiphar to somewhere else. He was still in the same house. So that's really important to pay attention to.
Yaakov, when I go to this other app here, can you still see me right now on the video?
I see you now on the video.
Okay, all right. I just wasn't sure. Okay, so I'm sorry. So where are we right now?
You just read.
So I just wanted to understand what you were saying, that it says the Midyanim, and you're saying that's different from the Midyanim?
Yeah, they're two different words, two different people. It says that the Midyanim found him and pulled him out the well. Okay, and they gave him to the Ishmaelites. And it says the Ishmaelites brought him
but I don't think. Let me just see here.
Here is
you could have just
Midyan. Now the word Midyan.
Hey, it doesn't make sense. Midyan, it's got to be. It doesn't make sense. It's got to be the same people.
The word Midyan and Midan have the same meaning, and when you look in the Tanakh, they're used interchangeably, talking about quarrels. You see it a lot in the Proverbs, whereas you'll have one that says Midanim, and then you'll say Midyanim, and even in the Keri Ketiv, they're interchanged. So it's the interesting thing is, it says that the Midyanim pulled him out of the well, right? Let's see. Where are we at here?
For the word that you're talking about in the Psalms, Midanim, is that I don't think that's related to the people. Midan just means like you said, an argument or a quarrel or strife. They usually translate it as.
Well, the Midan are one son of Abraham through Keturah. Midyan is another son from Keturah, of Abraham. They're both from the same mother and father.
Right.
Ishmael is also a son of Abraham, but from Hagar. And the point I'm getting at is that it was the Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites were coming from Gilead and They were bringing these different spices. Where was it? Okay, so now they saw the Ishmaelites coming, and they were talking about, let's sell him. Okay, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites. And as they were talking, it says the Midianim. So verse 28 says, وَيَعَذْرُوا أَنَشِيم Midyanim here, who are Saharim, and they pulled him out of the well and sold him to the Ishmaelites, who brought him down to Egypt. Okay, it says here, وَيَavِئُ et Yosef Mitzrayma. So the Midianites pulled him out, sold him to the Ishmaelites, who brought him to Egypt. However, it says here, وَhamiddanim. Now this is a different word, although it has the same semantics. It means the same thing. It says the Midianim.
Well, that's what I'm. Yeah, go ahead.
Sold him to Egypt.
Yes, but you're saying it's two different peoples, right? Because you're saying that the two sons of Keturah, Midian and Midan, yeah?
Okay, look. If we're saying that these are Midianites, that's Midian. Okay?
Right.
Midianites are a different group of people. They're not the same people. You had two different sons, Midian and Midan.
Yes,
they were brothers.
I understand that, but it doesn't make sense from the context here. It's not what you think the Midianites handed them over to the Midianites, who then sold them from Egypt to Potiphar, and other than that, most of the English translations that I'm looking at say in verse 36 that it's still the Midianites. They don't translate it as the Midianites.
Yeah, okay, well, you tell me, who are these? And I don't want to hear anything about Robert Alter. Don't give a shit. I don't care about what the English.
No, I'm not even looking at him. Well, first of all, I wasn't looking at him, but he does have usually a lot to say about that, and he's very brilliant.
Tell me what the Hebrew says.
I do. I mean, I think that. What's that?
What does the Hebrew text say?
No, the Hebrew text certainly says Midanites, Midanim. Now, however, that could have easily been corrupted from Midianim.
Okay, but how did the Midianim do it when they were the ones who sold him to the Ishmaelites, and it was the Ishmaelites who brought him to Egypt? It says that a couple verses before, and that's the point I'm getting at. Here we have the Midianites brought him out the well, sold him to the Ishmaelites, who brought him and sold him to Egypt. Now we, at the very end of this scene, we have the Midianites. Okay, so evidently he was handed off from the Midianites to the Ishmaelites, and from the Ishmaelites to the Midianites. These aren't the same two. You can't say that they're the two people. Midianites are the sons of Midan, not from Midian. They're two different.
Well, it's brothers. Again, I look at the.
Well, they're all brothers. They're all the same people.
No. His brothers pulled up. It says, I'm just looking at the English now. I can take a look at the Hebrew in a second, but I just happen to have the English open because I was looking at how they were translating the Midanim. But it says his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him 20 shekels of silver over to the Ishmaelites. So
his brothers pulled him up. It was the Midianites who brought him up.
Let's look at the Hebrew for a second. Verse 28. אומר יהודה אל אחיו, מה בעצם, אוקיי? ויעברו אנשים מדיינים, סוחרים, ימשכו, יעלו את יוסף מן הבור, יקראו את יוסף לישמעאלים, ב20 כסף, ויביאו את יוסף מצרימה. Okay, fair enough. All right, so the English translation says something a bit different here. They're saying that it was Yosef's brother, Yimshachu, but okay, I agree with you. That's the Midianim who are pulling him out of the hole there. Let me just look at it one more time. יעברו אנשים מדיינים, סוחרים, ימשכו, יעלו את יוסף מן הבור, ימכרו את יוסף לישמעאלים, ב20 כסף, ויביאו את יוסף מצרימה. Okay. Fine. So the Ishmaelim brought him to. Okay, that we don't need. והמדנים מכרו אותו אל מצרים לפוטיפר סריס פרעה שר הטבחים.
So we have
yeah, maybe
we have a couple of choices here. The one choice is that he was pulled out of the well by the Midianites, sold to the Ishmaelites, somehow or another handed over to the Midianites, who sold him to Potiphar. That's one possibility. Or it could be that the Midianites and Midianites are the same group of people. How that's possible that he was sold from the Midianites to the Ishmaelites and sold back to the Midianites. That's a little bit strange. Or it could be a third possibility altogether that the Midianites here is the Anashim Midianim could be as the arguing men, which would, as the English
I don't
implies, were the brothers, which I absolutely reject.
No, that doesn't make any sense yet. That's ridiculous. But well, is there any descendant of Ishmael that has the name Midan or Midian?
I don't know.
Because
he's got
it seems.
12,
I mean, it's Midianim, Machruto El Mitzrayim, the Potiphar, Saris Pharaoh, Sarat Tabachim. I mean, I guess what you're saying is it is Midanim.
Because Midan, now they're just like you have many brothers who are named similar names. They have the same meaning, but they're actually spelled a little bit different.
Right.
Here you have the case. You have Midian, who is clearly one of the sons of Abraham from Keturah, and then you have Midan, who is his brother from the same mother and father. Okay. Now they're all brothers. If you think about it, Midian, Midan, and Ishmael were brothers. Okay, they had different mothers, same fathers, same father.
Right.
Now the Ishmaelites, the Israelites, the Midianites, and the Midianites are all cousins. They're all from Abraham. Think about that.
Right. Sure.
But the only thing I was getting at is it just, when you read this verse at the very end of the scene, okay, we're told the Midianites brought him out of the well, sold him to the Ishmaelites.
Right.
However, it says the Ishmaelites were the ones who sold him to Egypt. But now we're being told that it was the Midianites who sold him to Egypt. Now well, let me see if it actually.
Where does it say that? Where does it say specifically? Where does it say specifically that the Ishmaelites sold them to Egypt?
That's what I was about to say. It says, "Wa yimkaru at Yosef liYishmael, wa yaviu at Yosef." Okay, so the Ishmaelites brought him to Egypt. It didn't say that the Ishmaelites sold him to Egypt. They brought him to Egypt. So evidently they brought him to Egypt. He was given over to Midianites. Now think about it. The Ishmaelites, the Midianites are first of all cousins to Joseph. Okay. I'm sure Joseph spoke to him. They said, "Well, who are you? We found you in a well. What you doing in here?" He said, "Well, I'm the son of Yaakov, who is the son of Isaac, who's the son of Abraham. All right. My brothers are trying to kill me. This is why I ended up in the well." So they brought him out and said, "Okay, well, we'll say to the Ishmaelites," probably not meaning to necessarily make him a slave or anything, but they actually, in their minds, might have been thinking, "We're going to save your life, but we're going to make some money too," and sold him to a kinsman tribe, which were the Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites said, "Well, we're going to bring you to the Midianites, and maybe you'll have a better life there. At least you won't be dead." And then the Midianites sold him to Potiphar.
It's possible. Or it's possible also another...
It could have been just a misspelling. It could have been Midianites.
It could mean, once again, this is after that we have it's at the end of that verse is a pick, right? So that's a
Petucha, and that just means that's the end of this
of a section. Often the last sentence or... What's that?
It's just the end of this scene, this theme.
Correct.
Of the selling of Joseph. Now we're going to actually get to the point.
Yeah, but my point is that the last sentence or two usually of these scenes, as you want to call them, or if you want, whatever you want to call them, the Parashath, or the section is usually a summary section. So if it says verse 36, if it says in verse 36, Hamidani machru oto el Mitzrayim lefotifar saris paro sar hatabachim, that could be a summary section, and it could just be saying, how the Torah works, or ancient Hebrew works a little bit differently from English. It might not mean directly sold him, but it might just be summing up the fact that the Midianim were the one who caused his ultimate sale to Potiphar Saris Paro Sarat.
They're the first ones who sold him, and he eventually ended up and that's what I was saying. Midan could be a misspelling of Midianim. All that's missing is the word.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. That because it's a summary sentence, and because we saw that the Midianim pulled them out and sold them, it just seems more logical to me that we're talking that this is a summary sentence speaking about the Midianim pulling him out and selling him, and he ultimately ends up in the hands of Potiphar, Sarisparo, Saratabachim, right? So I'm just rejecting the idea that that's two different, that he was picked up by the Midianim, sold to the Ishmaelim. The Ishmaelim took him, sold him to the Midanim, and the Midanim took him and sold him to the Mitzrayim. I think it's the Midianim picked him up, sold him to the Ishmaelim, who went down to Egypt, and then sold him directly to Potiphar. And I think that the logical explanation there is that the Midanim in verse 36 is really just a misspelling, or maybe even not a misspelling. Maybe it just wasn't vowelized with a yud. Would there be a way to Midianim? I guess not.
Because like I said, Midan and Midian are used in the Tanakh when it talks about people being argumentative, troublesome, or quarrelsome. And they're used interchangeably. It says the Midianim, which means the quarrelsome people, or it says the Midanim, which means the same thing. So you just could be the same thing. But anyways, I thought I'd point out.
Yeah. Okie dokie. I will for my own edification look at Robert Alter, but he doesn't say anything actually.
English only readers will miss that. You won't be able to think and contemplate on all these great subtleties that Melech and I discuss.
But I'm not sure that when it says Midanim again in Psalms, just to be a little bit of a pain in the butt, I don't think it's necessarily speaking about this nation of the Midanim or of the Midianim. I think that's
no. The name of the nation.
It's an abstract plural, which just means which is usually translated as strife.
The name of Midian, okay, just like Yitzhak means he laughs, okay. Midian means quarrelsome or troublesome.
Okay.
And Midan means the same thing. And when you see it in the Proverbs, I think there's one instance where it's actually one is the carry, one is the ketiv. I don't know which. I can't remember off the top of my head which one is which, but one is the carry as Midan or Midian, and the other one is the ketiv as Midian, but they're used interchangeably there, and it means the same thing. I'll have to hang on. Let me find out where that is. Now that I'm curious. Let's see. Oh no, let me see. That is in Proverbs 6:14. It is the Midanim, which is actually the ketiv, and Midianim is the carry.
Now, Robert, who Midianites and the interchangeably. If we want to go that far. This is here. Elsewhere, Midianites and Ishmaelites appear to be terms from different periods designating the same people. Compare Judges 8:22 and 24. So do we want to take a look at that, or do we just want to move on? Let's take a look at that as long as we've gone this far. So we have Judges chapter 8, and Judges chapter 8, verse 22 and 8:24.
ויאמרו איש ישראל אל גדעון משול בנו גם אתה גם בנך גם בנך כי הושעתנו מיד מדיין. Okay, so we have miyad midyan here, and he said 24 is the next one. ויאמר עליהם גדעון איש עלה מכם שאלה ותנו לי איש נזם שלנו כי נזמי זהב להם כי ישמעאלים הם. Okay, yeah, so it says here the Ishmaelites are Midianites then.
Which is strange. Why would the Ishmaelites be called Midianites or vice versa? Why are the two?
Yeah.
Right?
Perhaps the Ishmaelites and Midianites were living in the same place. I have no idea.
Maybe, right? Yomru ish Yisrael el Gidon, Shal banu gam ata gam mitcha gam ben benecha ki ushtanu miyad midyan. Okay. Yomer alehem Gidon lo. Imsha ani bechem velo sham benu bechem. Imsha bechem yomer Gidon השאלה מכם שאלה ותנו לי איש נזם שלום כי נזמי זהב להם כי ישמעאלים הם. Okay.
Yeah. And so the question in the story that we're reading now in Joseph is that if the Midianites are Ishmaelites, why did the Midianites pull them out the well and sell them to the Ishmaelites? And then why did it say the Ishmaelites are the Midianites, which are not Midianites technically? But that's neither here nor there. That's just interesting things you see in the text, and
but that's what we're here doing. We're here studying.
Yeah. You have to bring it up.
It's sometimes good to do a deep dive into these things and really figure out what's going on because it's not so clear. I still don't think we've gotten to the bottom, but at least
the only thing I do is I give them the benefit of the doubt. They were all living in the same area. Okay. Right. None of this land was actually given to anybody at this point in time. Okay. Sure. Now you have Gilead, which is where the Ishmaelites were coming from. It says they saw the Ishmaelites that were coming from Gilead. Okay. While they were eating, it says some Midianites came and pulled them out the well.
Right.
Now the Ishmaelites, the Midianites, and the Midianites, they're all sons of Abraham. They're cousins to the Israelites. They're all cousins. Now there is no hint anywhere in the Torah at this point in time, not here, that there was problems between these cousins. Okay, that comes later. All right, the problems between these two comes later.
Yeah.
Now whether the well was empty or dry, we don't know. It says it was dry. Whether the Ishmaelites knew it was dry or whether the Midianites knew it was dry, it doesn't say. It just says they drew something down, pulled up. Here comes Joseph. That's what it says.
Right.
They
look what we got here. We caught a fish.
So naturally, the question. Now you have to imagine. Naturally, the question is like, "Man, who are you and what are you doing down there?"
Right.
And Joseph probably told him, "Hey, I'm an Israelite. The Midianites and Ishmaelites know who the Israelites are. They're all family." And he said the question had to come up. Well, how'd you end up in the well? Well, my brothers were trying to kill me and they put me here. And so I always give it the benefit of the doubt. They are family. They said, "Hey, we'll get you out of here anyway and make a little money at the same time." And
I'll be right back. I just got to take care of something for 5 minutes.
All right.
So you go on. I'll be right back.
So getting back to where we were, let me try and change the page. Let me get back to where I was. So that's 37. We're in 38. 38 verse 1. ويهي بعيد حهي وييرد يهودا مئة إخاب وييت عاد إيش وييت عاد إيش الدلمي أوشمو حيرا. And it happened at that time that Yehuda, he went down from his brothers, and he tented up until or to an Edomite man or an Adulamite man whose name was Hira. ويار شام يهوذا بات إيش كنعاني وشمو شوع ويقحيها ويبو عليها. And Yehuda saw there a daughter of a Canaanite man. Now the name of the Canaanite man was Shua. Okay. And he took her and he went in unto her, which means he consummated the marriage. Okay, so he married this Canaanite woman. What her name is, we're never told, but her father's name was Shua. Okay. Verse 3. وَالتَّاهَرْ وَالتَّيْلِدْ بَيْنْ وَيِقْرَأَ شِمَوْ عَيْرٍ. Hang on just a second. Someone's writing me. Well, it's my mama. Verse 3. And she became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and she called his name Air. Okay. Air means watchful. All right. وَالتَّاهَرْ عُوب وَالتَّيْلِدْ بَيْنْ وَتِقْرَأَتْ شِمَوْ أَوْنَانٍ. And she got pregnant again, and she gave birth to a son, and she called his name Onan. Onan means, it's interesting. Depending on where you get the root of this word, Onan can mean strength. The word on could also mean being. And for instance, the priest of On, which is a city in Egypt, which will actually be the family that Joseph marries into, they will be called the priests of On. Well, the word On in Greek actually means being. It's interesting because in Exodus chapter 3, where Moses asked the name of God, of course it says in Hebrew, Ihye Asher Ihye. But in Greek it says Ego Eimi Ha'on. I am the own, or the being. And so Onan can actually mean a being, or it can mean strength. Just interesting. Verse 4. Or actually verse 5. وَتَوْسِف أود وَتَيْلِذْ بَيْن وَتِقْرَأْ شِمَوْ شَيْلَح وحياة بخزيف بلد تح أوثو. And she continued again to give birth and to a son, and she called his name Shelah, which means a question or inquisitive. And he was in a membrane as he was born, and this is normally talking about the amniotic sac. He was born with this around his head, supposedly. If that's exactly what it means, don't know, but this is what they usually translate this word kaziv. Okay. Verse 6. Probably, how deep was the well? Yeah, I don't know, Robert or Roberta. Roberta Humans asked, how deep was the well? I don't know how deep the well was. I don't think it was too deep. Verse 6. وَيَكَحْ يَهُدَا إِشَا لَعِيرْ بِخُرَى Ushima Tamar. And so Yehuda took a woman for his son Ayer, for his firstborn son Ayer, whose name was Tamar. And Tamar means date. That's where we get the word date from. Hakan, we're in 28, or excuse me, 38, and we're in verse 6 now.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'm actually starting on verse 7.
Okay, shall I read the 6th first in German or start with 7?
If you want to read 6 in German, that's fine.
Okay, so Vers 6. Jehuda nahm für seinen ältesten Sohn eine Frau, die hieß Tamar.
That's right. And now verse 7, we have وهي عير بخور يهودا رع بعيني أدوناي ويمثيه أدوناي. Now it says Ayer, the firstborn of Yehuda, was a Ra. Now this idea of Ra is context dependent. It depends on the context of exactly what it means. But whatever it is always the exact opposite of Tov. And it doesn't necessarily mean he has to be a completely rotten apple, but whatever it was, he was not considered good in the eyes of God. And now it says that God caused his death or put him to death. William Ethehu, which is a hifil imperfect, which is a causative, which means Adonai put him to death or caused him to die. But it doesn't say exactly what Ayer did.
And of course, they say, of course, what the rabbis say is that he also was killed for the sin of masturbation. And why do they say that? Because they do a hekesh between when Onan, it says Onan, what Onan did was Ra, and God killed him. And here it says that Er was Ra, and God killed him. So of course that means that he also was killed for the sin of masturbation. So you have two brothers wiped out off of planet Earth for the horrible sin of diddling oneself. Now, if God were to kill everyone who did this, then I think that very few people would see it through their, to the age of 14. The whole world would pretty much be wiped out around,
Well, of course, it doesn't necessarily say that female masturbation is wrong, does it? Only men.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, come on.
Anyway, the whole thing is so ridiculous, and the fact that it's still perpetuated as this is, that this is preached to be, literally a worse sin than murder is just it's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, yeah. So let's go on.
Okay, Hakan, translation, please.
Vers 7.
Ja.
Aber Jehudas ältester Sohn, war in den Augen des Ewigen missfällig und der Ewige ließ ihn sterben. So I have to so you noticed it, or the translation for Adonai in my translation book is der Ewige.
Ewige, the eternal.
The eternal one, yes. The eternal.
Yeah. And that's also in the Arabic. He's called the he's called the Yazil Lo Yazul.
Al-Abadia?
Bei mir? Was meinst du bei mir?
Arabic. Is it Al-Abadia?
No, Ewige, nein, das ist Adonai, das ist die 4 Buchstaben, Yod, He, Waw, He. Aber
Okay.
ich habe keine Übersetzung. Ich habe nur Hebräisch.
Okay.
So we're not told why he was killed, but he was just a screw up. He did something that was worthy to be put to death. Verse 8. ويومر يهوذا لأونان بو إل أيشت أخيها ويبيم أوثا. Sounds a little bit funny. وحقيم زيرا لأخيها. And so Yehuda says to Onan, go to your brother's wife and perform Yibam, which means to perform, this is what's called levirate marriage, and raise up a seed for your brother. Okay, so this is what he's told to do. Okay, the translation now?
Aber no, it's verse 8, right?
Yeah.
Da sprach Jehuda zu Onan, wohne der Frau deines Bruders bei und nimm sie zur Bruderehe, damit du deinem Bruder Nachkommen verschaffst.
Yeah. That's actually pretty decent. All right, verse 9.
By the way, if I could just point out something.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people think that the word levirate is related to the word Levi, or something along those lines, and it's not. It comes from a Latin word, and I just have to remember where it comes. Here it is. The term levirate is derivative of the Latin word levir, Levir, meaning husband's brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's nothing to do with the Levites. A lot of people think it has something to do with the levirate marriage, has something to do with the Levite marriage or something like that.
That's actually the first time I heard that, but no, that's definitely different. Okay, verse 9. وَيَيْدَعْ عُنَانْ كِي لو يهي هزارة وحياة إمبا إل عيشة أخيه وشحيت أرثا لذلتي نثان زيرة لأخيه. Pay attention to the verse so we'll know exactly what's going on here. It says, however, Onan knew that the seed would not be his. And it was so that when he came into or to his brother's wife, that he ruined, it says, he ruined it towards the earth.
It's they usually translate as spilled. But yeah, it literally means destroyed it by, I guess you could say, wasted it by spilling it on the ground.
Yeah. So that Livilti Nathanazera, so that he would not give seed to his brother. That's what he did. He wasn't in there looking at a porno and titillating himself. Okay, he was actually having sex with his brother's wife, and if he didn't want to have children, he could have said, "No, I don't want one."
And another thing to point out is, as I always like to point out, there's an inheritance issue here as well, very much perhaps, because Er was the firstborn. We know that in the Torah, and even before the Torah, ostensibly, because a lot of the Torah laws are just codifications of what was kind of taking place, tradition already. But the firstborn generally gets a double inheritance.
That's
okay, so if he has a child in his brother's name, that child would be the one to get a double inheritance of basically double inheritance, right? So it would take away from his own children's inheritance, and doubly so, in fact. So there is an issue here of inheritance as well, I think.
Yep.
So Vers 9.
Yep, verse 9.
Nun wusste Onan, dass die Nachkommen nicht ihm gehören würden, Wenn er also seines Bruders Frauen beiwohnte, verderbte er es zur Erde, um seinem Bruder keine Nachkommen zu geben.
Stimmt.
Stimmt.
Das ist das Problem.
Okay.
Das ist das Missachtung. Yeah. The important thing is to know that what was wicked in the sight of God, which we're about to read now in verse 10, وَيَيْرَعْ بِعَنَيْ أَدُونَيْ أَشِرْ عَسَى وَيَامَثْ كَمْ أُثَوْ. And it was bad. It was really bad in the eyes of God, what he did. And so he was also put to death. This is also a hither, and he put him also to death. So what was it that he did?
No, it's clear.
That's right.
We've already said it. Yeah.
Getting pride there. So just really pay attention. Okay, verse 10.
Was tat, war in den Augen des Ewigen missfällig. Darum ließ er auch ihn sterben.
Ja. Kannst du das nochmal lesen?
Ja, kann ich. Also Vers 10. Was tat, war in den Augen des Ewigen missfällig. Darum ließ er auch ihn sterben.
Okay. So I just wanted to see if it was a causative in that. So it says at least ihm auch sterben.
I think it's because of of the death of that the Onan either had to die because of maybe the same reason.
It doesn't give a reason for why died. Just that whatever he did was bad. Was the firstborn. He couldn't have died because of his duty to provide an heir for his older brother, because he didn't have an older brother.
That's right.
We don't know what did.
Right.
Whatever it was, he was put to death. You know, you could surmise that, hey, maybe it was anal sex. We don't know, because he was already married, right? But whatever he did after he got that wife, it was wrong. But we don't know.
It doesn't even apply. It doesn't apply anything sexual at all.
I'm just saying
anything sexual at all.
No. The point I'm getting at.
He could have murdered someone for all we know, or he could have just been, maybe he brought lame sacrifices on the altar. Who knows? Yeah,
we don't know. And you can invent any reason you want of why died, okay? But you can't say that Onan died because of the same reason that died. The only thing you could say that made it similar is that whatever did was bad in the eyes of God, and whatever Onan did, we know exactly what Onan did. That was also bad in the eyes of God. But to say that they're both the same,
okay,
that we can't say.
Right.
So verse 11. ويومر يهوذا لثمار كلثو شذي ألمنا بيت أبيه excuse me عاد يبدل شيلا بني كي أمار بن يموث جمهو كإخاب وتيلخ تمار وتيشب بيت أبيها. And so Yehuda says to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, his Keletho, sit or dwell as a widow in the house of your father until Shelah grows up. Shelah, my son, grows up. Because he says, unless he also die like his brothers. And so,
but then see, that never really made sense to me, because 1 second, where is it?
Well, he's thinking maybe she's cursed.
Right, but I guess so I mean, she could kill if she's the Black Widow, she could still kill him when he grows up as well. But I guess he's saying at least let him not die while he's a child or something like that. I guess is the answer.
So
let me not see my son die while he's still a child. If he dies when he's an adult, at least okay. So then so be it. But Yehuda's thinking, man, what's with this man? I mean, everything she touches, dies. She's like the Black Widow over here. Yeah, this girl is bad news. All right, get her out of here. Now she had to go back.
And she lived with her father.
Yeah, and the point here is she's not only is she made now to wait for Shelah, but she's banished back to her father's house, right? And she this is now going to be her third marriage. She's probably thinking to herself, well, this is ridiculous. Maybe maybe Yehuda's sons are the ones who are bad luck. But she's in a very serious situation because she's now been married twice. She has no children. She's being sent back to her father's house, and now she has to wait for Yaakov's third son to grow up for any hope of having a child. And this is specifically what leads her to take her next action. She's had enough. She's not going to wait anymore. She wants a child.
What Tim Wilson sang about in the song, he says, if you've been married 3 times, hell, maybe it's you.
I never heard that. Who sings it?
Tim Wilson. He's a comedian.
Never heard of him.
Man, but he was married to an Israeli girl.
That'll do it. Yeah.
He used to talk about her in his jokes about, he goes around with the I can't remember the name of the unit, but they're the Israeli Special Forces.
Yeah.
But anyways, he was singing a song about 100 things every man needs to know to survive.
Yeah. And
a part of that, what he was singing about it, he said, if you've been married,
don't marry.
9 times, hell, maybe it's you or something like that. Maybe it's if you've been married 9 times. But anyways, that's just funny. Okay, so that was, where are we?
Vers 11. Jehuda sprach zu seiner Schwiegertochter Tamar: Bleibe in deines Vaters Haus, bis mein Sohn Shelah erwachsen sein wird. Denn er dachte sich, er könnte auch sterben wie seine Brüder. Tamar ging und blieb in ihres Vaters Haus.
Right. Okay, verse 12. ويربو حيمين وتموت بث شوع عيشة يهودا ويناحين يهودا ويعل على غوز زيتونو هو وحيرا رعيه أدلمي تمنثا. Wow. This is I'm gonna make a point here. So the days lingered on or multiplied, and the daughter of Shua, who's the wife of Yehuda, we never get her name. She's a Canaanite woman. She dies, and it says that Yehuda was comforted, and he went up to Timnah to shear his sheep. He, along with Hira, his friend, the Adulamite. Now, this is a rare occurrence you'll see. Normally, when you're talking about going to a certain country, you either go down to the country or you just go to the country. But normally, you only use the Ya'al, which means to go up, whenever you're talking about going back to Israel or to Jerusalem. And that's where you see it the most when you're talking about going in the direction of a certain place. And but here he's going to Timnah. Timnah is in the south, I think, of Israel.
Yeah, it's if you remember, Yaakov, it's the place where, remember that video that I showed you, or that I put on Facebook of the Mishkan that they built, the replica of the Mishkan.
And so, but this is funny because now he's going in the direction of the south, in the Negev. This would be really in the direction of Midian, I think.
This is down by at least today's Timnah. I don't know if it's the same as biblical Timnah, but today's Timnah is about half an hour north of Eilat, right near the Red Sea.
Yeah, and so he's actually going down. From when you think about it, that's a lowland area from where he's at. We're assuming he's in the area of the Hebron, which is where Yaakov, his brother, was living. Now, if you'll notice at the beginning, it says, okay? So now we have here, which is what I'm talking about. He went down from his brother. So he went down from Hebron, which is in the hills. Now he ends up in Timnah, which is in the Negev, which is actually a lowland area.
It sure
but
is.
It says he went up. And that's why I've always found strange. It's very rare that you'll see this verb used going in a direction of a place or a city other than Jerusalem or Israel itself. When you make Aliyah, that's why you make Aliyah. You go up.
Right.
And so
yeah, that's interesting. You're right. That is very. Yeah. It's a good point. So we have here, by the way, Yehuda's wife, Bat-Shua. Is she ever mentioned anywhere else?
No, she's only called the Bath-Shua, but she's a Canaanite woman. She was a Canaanite. Never get her name. So Er and Onan are from Halakha, Canaanites.
That's right.
Because we're not sure if this Shiksa Tamar converted.
Well, yeah, this is what I was going to say. Is that maybe she's the bad, maybe she's the bad luck. Yeah, she's out. She's out of the picture now.
Yeah.
She gave birth to 3 sons, right? To Er, Onan, and Shelach.
Yeah.
Shelach would. Well, it's interesting now. I never thought about it before, but okay. So Shelach is the one who gives birth to Tamar to Peretz, that's the line of David.
Well, yeah. Actually, we don't know who Tamar is. It just says he took Tamar. I'm thinking Tamar was also Canaanite, but it doesn't actually.
No, I'm talking about Shua. But Shua.
Yeah, Bathshua is a Canaanite. She had Er and Onan, and
I'm sorry. Right, it was Tamar who had. No, she had. Tamar had.
Tamar is the wife of
Yeah.
So now we have 3 sons who, according to Halakha, would be Canaanites. Right. We don't know if Bathshua converted. Tamar, who would be considered a Shiksa because she had she was passed around amongst the brothers, caused her death, and ended up being a whore, screwed her father-in-law, and had 2 sons. Well, that's what's about to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
So if we go by rabbinic halakha, that's pretty bad, man. Those are all.
No, Tamar is not. No, Tamar did absolutely nothing wrong. She's not married at the time, and she had every reason to do what she was doing. And in the end,
no.
The story.
She was not free to do what she wanted. She would be what would be called the arisa, which would be.
I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. No, I'm not so sure about that.
Well, that's exactly what Yehuda said. Go and be a widow until my son is grown up, so that you can marry him.
Yes, but that's not necessarily a formal. There's a formal ceremony of or a formal status of being arusa, of being engaged. There's no indication there that level or that formality had come. You could imply it could go either way. But the fact of the matter is that in the end, when Yehuda finds out what Tamar did, then Yehuda says that Yehuda basically says that he's the one who was wrong and she's the one who was right. When you have the whole incident of Tamar presenting
and so he never had anything to do with her after that. But The point is, it's a how would you?
I don't think Tamar. I don't think Tamar. I don't think it's the case. I think that Tamar was not engaged, because if she were engaged, then
if she were free, let's think about this logically. If she were free to do what she wanted, and it said that she was found to be pregnant, okay. Now she's a widow, and she could go technically have sex as long as she wasn't engaged. Yehuda was going to kill her because why? She was pregnant, and she said she played the whore. Okay. So if she was free to go out and have sex or do whatever she wanted, then he would have never been angry because he assumed she was being a widow until his son was old enough.
That's a good point. I accept that point. That is a good point. But on the other hand, if that is the case, then he had no right to excuse her even when he found out what the reasoning behind her actions was, because still she had slept with another man while being engaged. So he wouldn't have. Right. So he wouldn't have been able to say afterwards, if she were actually engaged, he wouldn't have been able to say afterwards, oh, I'm wrong and you're right.
Well,
he would have said, listen, that's all fine and dandy, but you were engaged, you're earning.
Well, if we go by the Torah,
engaged woman.
If we go by the Torah, that a man who sleeps with a woman who is engaged.
That's right.
That's both of them. Wait a minute. Is the woman punished or is just the man?
Say again?
In the Torah, if a man sleeps with a woman who is engaged,
they're both put to death.
That's what I'm thinking too.
They are both put to death. Yeah.
I think the only case is if the woman happened to be a slave who was promised to be married, and because she was a slave, she wouldn't be put to death, and neither would him. He would have to pay a fine. But in the case that she's a free woman, and this seems to be the case here, and he sleeps with her, they would both be put to death. So if we went strictly by the rules of the Torah of Mount Sinai that was given to us, that's what would have to happen. Both of them would have to be put to death.
Right. Exactly. No, that's not true. That's not true. Yehuda would that's not true. Yehuda would not have to be put to death because he did not knowingly sleep with a married woman, right? So he can't be. I mean, a little common sense here. You can't be held guilty for something that he didn't know he was doing, right? So it would be Tamar who would be put to death.
If Tamar, she was wrong no matter how you look at it.
No, I don't think she was wrong at all. I don't think she was wrong at all. It was Yehuda who was wrong. It was Yehuda was wrong who sent her for saying go back to your father's house, wait for another 10 or 20 years until my son, grows up, and then you'll come marry him. I think that
we don't know how old. We don't know how old Shelah was whenever he sent her back.
No,
I agree with you. He should have never sent her back.
But don't you think that she fooled him at all?
Huh?
Don't you
no,
think that?
Of course she fooled him. Of course she fooled him. That's clear. She fooled him. But the question is not whether she fooled him or not. The question is is whether she was justified in doing so. And it's clear. These are not my words. It's the words of Yehuda, as we'll see soon, that she was justified in doing that.
Well, in his eyes, that doesn't necessarily mean
right. In his eye, well, I mean, he's there. We're here. 3,000 years later, speculating he was right there. So I'll take his word for it. He saw her as justified, and I would further claim that the only way that he could see her as justified, although not necessarily, but I would tend to claim that the only way he could see her as justified is if she was not formally engaged to Shelach, because if she was formally engaged to Shelach, then what she did would be wrong no matter what. Although everything is, as I always point out in the Torah, everything is contextual. Everything is context. The Torah lays down laws but then there's context, and that's why we're supposed to have judges who are God-fearing, wise, and God-fearing people, right?
Well, no,
So
let's think about this for a minute. All right.
Mhm.
Just because Yehuda decided not to kill her doesn't mean necessarily she was innocent or that she wasn't necessarily guilty of committing adultery.
Well, he said
Now,
possibly. I think, in fact, if I remember correctly, he used the word she's the tzaddik or something like that.
all right, listen. Just because he didn't kill her,
Yeah.
and he said, okay,
Right.
He played a hand. He was not only the person who slept with her, but he was the one who caused her to be in the position where they were at to begin with. Second, just because he decided, okay, it was my fault, my bad, I'll let it slide this time, doesn't necessarily mean either one of them were actually innocent. Now, we can look at the case of Reuben and Bilhah. Yaakov had every right to kill his son and his wife. Right? That's his oldest son sleeping with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But
Possible,
he didn't.
yeah.
But he didn't. Okay, he just
That's right.
inherited him. But just because he didn't kill him, which was probably his right to do, doesn't necessarily mean that either one of them were innocent. And that's all I'm getting at. It was a bad thing that they did, but he realized, well, I ain't gonna kill her because I had a hand in it as well.
Perhaps. On the other hand, I would go back and claim that at least in Yehuda's eyes, that what Tamar did was that basically Yehuda's saying, listen, you're right. At the end of the day, what you did is justified, and what I've done is wrong. So I don't think I'm getting back to the original question as to whether Tamar was engaged or not. What I'm trying to say is actually I'm believe it or not trying to agree with you and saying that it is possible that Tamar was engaged. First of all, this is before the Torah was given, so there's there's no absolute law given by God at that point. And Yehuda at that point, he's the judge, jury, and executioner of his household. Tamar's part of his household, so he has the ultimate decision. So it is possible that she was formally engaged, whatever that meant at that time, to Shelah, but that given the context of the whole story, that Yehuda decided that she did not warrant to be put to death, and in fact she was correct in doing what she did, which then gets back to the fact that this is why the Torah has laws, but everything is very contextual. Getting back to the point that we are commanded in the Torah to have wise and God-fearing judges who can judge these cases, these very complicated cases where not everything is so cut and dried. So
that's right. Everything is contextualized, is context dependent, and everything we see and read is not an absolute, very detailed account of everything that's going on, and it's very rare that the Torah is very super detailed. Normally, it just gives you, an overview of some of the things that happens, and that's why we see, he did this, and then he did that, and then this, and there's no time. If you read it literally, you think this happened exactly right after, right after this. So we see that heir is born, and he was given a wife. That means a newborn was supposed to have sex with some woman, right? If we read it literally, and that's what I'm saying. It's not always super detailed on how old heir was, what his sin was. We don't know how old Onan was, or any of it, and we don't even know how old Shelah was. If you read it, you could claim that Onan and Shelah might have been twins. There's a way that you can actually make that claim. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there are many times where you see, actually, even after the Torah is given, that the Torah law is explicitly violated, right? I mean, the example that comes to mind is, as I learned many years ago from a certain Karaite, is the example of we're commanded to kill all of the Canaanites, every last man, woman, and child, right? And yet Rahav is the prostitute who helps the Israelite spies spy out Jericho is kept alive and protected, right? So everything is contextual.
And not only her whole family.
Right, her whole family, exactly.
Her and her whole family, and it says specifically those places within the inheritance, everything was to be killed, man, woman, and child. Now the question is Jericho within the inheritance of Israel? Technically, no. That's in Moab. And
Jericho is not in Moab. Jericho is on the Jericho's on the west side of the Jordan. Yeah.
Is it on the west side of Jordan?
Yeah.
I thought it was on the east side.
No.
Okay, it is in the inheritance of Israel. And
What's
everything that? Then it is in the inheritance.
Yeah. Well, that was the first city that they caught. That's the first right when they crossed the Jordan. That's where they go, straight to Jericho. And
but
anywho,
I reserve the right to be wrong.
So verse 12.
We all do.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to look real quick. Not that I don't believe you.
Go ahead, look. I've been through Jericho a zillion times. I know exactly where it is.
Yeah, it sure is. It's right there.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking it was on the east side.
Whatever. We all have our little brain blocks. I get a zillion a day, so.
But anyway, she was supposed to have been put to death. Her and everything in it, even the animals. Which is why whenever they excavated Jericho, they actually found grain. They didn't even take anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because they weren't allowed to. They weren't allowed to even take spoils of war.
Right.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and read the translation.
Okay, Vers 12. Es verflossen viele Tage, da starb die Tochter des Schua, Jehudas Frau. Als Jehuda getröstet wurde, ging er hinauf zu den Scherern seines Kleinviehs. Er und sein Freund Hira nach Timna.
Yep. So, verse 13. Wayugad lethamar lemor. Hinne chamik. Oh, and here it is. Aolei. Aolei thimnatha the rostono. And so Tamar was informed, saying, "Behold, your father-in-law is coming up to Timnah,
right,
to to shear his sheep."
Timnah is just topologically speaking, Timnah is an area where there are a lot of mountains. Like it's the mountains a little bit north of Eilat, so that might be the reason for the word Ola or Ole.
Timnah Park.
Mm-hmm.
It's north of Eilat, but you have a whole bunch of mountains just north of Eilat. It's a big, so that might be the reason. It might just be a highlands, and so the word Ole.
Yeah, because the Negev itself is got mountains and hills all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Melech, one question. Because you said, or you think that Tamar is innocent, or?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because of this verse? Because there she sees that Shelah is not her husband, because he was promised to her. Maybe she got the insight in that moment to sleep with the father.
Well, because she has to wait again. She's been married twice now, right?
But
and
both
of these husbands died. She has no children. Her biological clock is ticking. And now she's told, go back home and wait for Shelah to grow up. And she's, no, enough is enough. I got to have a kid here.
And
right?
many days have gone by.
Right.
Okay.
Verse
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. Right. Verse 12. V'yibbu hayamim v'tamat bat shua eshet Yehuda v'yinachem Yehuda v'yal. Okay. So right. Exactly. Many days have passed by. So she's sitting there. She's waiting. She's waiting. She's waiting. Her biological clock is ticking. You know, no shelah, no nothing. You know, she can't get married because she was told to go back to her father's house and wait for shelah. And you know, she said, "That's it. Enough is enough. I got. A woman's got to do what a woman's got to do."
And she's got to provide heirs for two.
What's that?
What do you think?
She has to provide heirs for two.
I guess I never thought about it that way. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Which is why she has twins.
I mean, isn't that weird? So let's think about this. So it's actually Yehuda who ends up unintentionally performing the levirate marriage. Jeez. I think my brain just short circuited and it's about to explode.
Yeah, he provided his own heirs.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even. I think I'm gonna need like a flow chart to figure that one out. As you do.
They're his son grandsons.
Yeah. It's like the old joke I always say. They always say it about the South. Sorry, Yaakov, I know you're from South Carolina, but this guy said this comedian says I was down in the South one time, and this guy walked up to me and said, "I'd like you to meet my wife and my daughter." And there was only one woman standing there.
I have to admit, there has been lots of that. Not necessarily in my family with wife and daughter, but certainly first cousins and even daughter-in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, okay. First
cousins are acceptable even in the Torah and are permitted in laws of I think most countries. I think in the United States you're allowed to marry your first cousin.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with cousins. The daughter-in-laws, I draw the line with.
Right.
So, 14.
Yep. Verse 13.
Vers 14. Da legte sie ihre Witwenkleider ab, bedeckte sich mit einem Schleier, verhüllte sich und setzte sich an die öffentliche Heerstraße, welche auf dem Wege nach Timna ist. Denn sie sah, dass Shelah erwachsen war und sie ihm nicht zur Frau gegeben worden war.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So this is verse 14. It says, وَالتَّاسَرْ بِغَدَيْ الْمَنُوثَ مَيْ عَلَيْهَا وَالتِّكَاسْ بِسَعِيف وَالتِّتْعَلَّافِ وَالتَّيْشِف بَفَيْثَخ عَيْنَيْم أَشَرْ عَلْ دَيْرِخ تِمْنَفَا كِي رَأَفَا كِي גדול שאלה وهي לא ניתנה לו לאישה. And so she took off her clothes of widowhood from upon her, and she dressed herself in a sa'if. Now, sa'if is what we see for the first time in the story of Rivka. When she comes to meet Yitzhak. Okay, it says she came off of the camel and she covered herself with a sa'if, which is what we normally call a veil. Right. Mm-hmm. And now we have a verb form here, tith'alaf, which is the hifo form of alaf, which means to put on a veil or cover.
The hit by L form, I think you meant to say.
Right. And we have that in the barakah of the tzitzit, I think, for the rabbinites.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Het alef b'tzitzit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so she wrapped herself in this veil, and she sat in the opening of the eyes. Whatever that
the opening of a place called Einayim, wherever the heck that is.
It says,
well, we know where it is. It's on the way to Timnah.
Yeah, whatever it means, which is on the road to Timnah.
Right.
Because she saw that Shelah had grown up, but she was not given to him as a wife. Now, what I want to know is, how did she see that Shelah was grown up? And I'm gonna say something that's going to be really controversial about this. Okay. I believe Shelah was also in Timnah.
Okay.
And because that's where Yehuda had his flocks. Yehuda was somewhere else, and he went down, or he went up to Timnah to his flocks. So his flocks weren't wherever he was. And it says that his friend Hira was also with him and not with his flocks. So somebody had to be keeping flocks. And that would be the only way that Tamar would know that Shelah was grown.
Mm-hmm. What? I first of all, I don't think it's not the only way. Tamar would have known how old Shelah was, and would have known he's grown up, whatever that meant. 20 years old.
She would have known by the fact that she was living with him when he was born, with the family, and she would have could have guesstimated that, but it said that she saw that he'd grown up, but she wasn't given to him. And that's just my guesstimation. Somebody had to be keeping the flocks of Judah and Timnah. He wasn't there. He wasn't keeping them.
I think it's very speculative, but it could be.
Yes.
Yep. Goes as and what you're saying that based on. Okay, wait a second here. Which verse is this? We're in 14. Yes, but ra'ata, ro'eh doesn't necessarily, ro'eh even in biblical Hebrew could mean just figuratively saw, right? Noticed.
Well, it just means she realized that he would
grow up. Exactly. Right. It doesn't mean she saw it with her own eyes necessarily. I don't think you can use that as a proof that she's looking at shit.
She saw the fact that she was given to him. That's just amazing. But the point is, like you said, she already knew how old Shelah was when she left, was sent back to her father's house. Mm-hmm. Now, there's two possibilities. And I said it's possible that Shelah was there in Timnah with the flocks of his father, or it could be that the flocks of his father was kept with the family of Tamar.
Who knows? I don't think it's relevant to the story one way or another, so I don't really think it matters that much. But okay, it's possible.
Well, it is relevant. The whole point that he's going to Timnah is to shear his flocks. That's the only reason why he goes to Timnah.
No, but it's not relevant whether Shelah is in Timnah or whether Shelah is not in Timnah.
Oh no,
it's not relevant to the story at all.
No, that part's not relevant.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, translation.
Translation, okay.
Verse 14.
14.
And Yaakov, I'm gonna have to go in a couple of minutes because as soon as Shabbat comes out, I have something that I need to do.
Yeah, actually, this will probably be the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, I would like to finish the story here, but I really do have to get going.
It's been 3 hours now.
Vers 14.
Ja.
Da legte sie ihre Witwenkleider ab, bedeckte sich mit einem Schleier, verhüllte sich und setzte sich an die öffentliche Heerstraße, welche auf dem Weg nach Timnah ist. Denn sie sah, dass Shelah erwachsen war und sie ihm nicht zur Frau gegeben worden war.
Right. So, verse 15. وَيِرْئَهَا يَهُدَا وَيَخْشِبَهَا لِزَوْنَا כי kisatha paneha. Now, I want to make a point here as we go. It says, so Yehuda saw her, and he considered that she was a prostitute, a zona, okay, because she covered her face, which is interesting. Does it mean that only prostitutes cover their faces? Isn't that what Rivka did when she met Yitzhak for the first time? So that can't be. There has to be something else to it. But anyways, the point is the zona is going to be called something else here shortly. It's going to be called a kadesha. Kadesha is a temple prostitute normally. The kadesha is you have the kadesh and you also have the kadesha. The kadesha was a temple prostitute is basically what it was, and the kadesh was a temple prostitute for the man.
I think they're just used interchangeably. It's clear it's talking here about a prostitute,
right? And she was sitting in the way. But
and I guess that prostitutes. My guess is that back in those days, prostitutes were a little bit embarrassed about their job, so they would cover themselves. They would cover their faces.
Yeah, but it's just interesting. Okay, verse 15, Hakan.
Jehuda erblickte sie und hielt sie für eine Hure, denn sie hatte ihr Gesicht bedeckt.
Yeah. Verse 16. وييت إليها الحدارك ويومر هفانا أبو إليك كيلو يدع كي خلثو كي وتومر ما تتنلي كي ثبو إلي وييت عليها, and he leaned towards her on the road, and he says, please come to me, I would like to penetrate you, because he didn't know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she says, what are you going to give to me if you come into me? Very straightforward language.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It can't get any clearer than that.
Okay, verse 16, Hakan.
Lenkte zu ihr hin den Weg und sprach, erlaube, dass ich dir beiwohne. Denn wusste nicht, dass sie seine Schwiegertochter war. Sie sprach, was willst du mir geben, wenn du mir beiwohnest?
Beiwohnen.
Beiwohnen.
Yeah, beiwohnen.
What's that? No, I don't get the term.
To reside.
Okay.
To reside next to me, to live. Beiwohnen means to live. By means
okay.
In the near or something.
17.
Yeah, verse 17. ويومر أنوخي أشلح جدي الزيم من حسون والتومر امتتين عيرفون عد شلحيخة. And he said, I will send to you a kid of the goats from the flock. And she said, only if you will give an Eiravon. Eiravon is a pledge. It's like a surety.
Collateral.
Until you send
call it. A deposit.
A deposit, yeah. Until you send him. Okay, Hakan.
So let's point out here that she's paying. Imagine you today you slept with a prostitute and said, "Oh, here I'm paying you with a goat."
Only if it's plastic.
What?
I didn't get that question.
Forget it. I'm just saying that times have changed a little bit. That's all I'm saying, Hakan.
Yes.
Hakan, fragte, ob du heute eine Huren mit
Eine Hurin, I understood that one.
Ein Haustieren besucht.
Ja, genau.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Different times.
It's the
Different
word speculation, but the word goat might be related to the word gedi.
That's why we don't eat.
What's that?
Gedim, you said. The word gedim.
No, the word gedi might be related to the English word goat. I mean, we'd have to trace it etymologically, but it's just.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So this is gonna be this is gonna be my last verse, and then I'll
yeah, me too. Unfortunately, even though the action's heating up now, but yeah.
Oh man, good. So verse 18. ويومر ما عربون أشر التنلاخ وتومر خثامخ أو فتيلخ ومتخ أشر بيديخ ويتن الله ويبو إليها والتهار لو. So say it now. And so he says, what collateral should I give to you? And she said, your signet and your chain and your staff, which is in your hand. And he gave them to her, and he went into her and got her pregnant. And she became pregnant because of him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my dear friends, I appreciate everyone joining us today for our Torah study.
Yeah, always great.
Wish we had more time to get through the entire Parashath every Shabbat, but I think
it's better this way. It's better this way. It's better not to rush it.
I just mean
talk.
I mean more than 3 hours. We have 3 hours invested. It would be good that if I had another 8-10 hours that I could invest, but unfortunately I can't do it.
It'd be too much.
And so I want to wish everyone.
I don't even think. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
I want to wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom, and for everyone who is through on the first day of the week, and Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Okay. So
thank you very much.
We'll see everyone again next Shabbat, same channel, same time.
Sounds good.
Okay? All right.
Shabbat Shalom. Shavua Tov, everyone.